podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Sunday, May 22nd, 2022. This is episode 1896. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Peloton. Right now is the perfect time to try out Peloton. The Peloton Bike Plus is now $500 less. That's its best price yet, including free delivery and setup. And there are more game-changing prices available in the original Peloton Bike and Peloton Tread. Visit onepeloton.com to learn more. And by Acronis. Keep your digital world safe from all threats with the only cyber protection solution that delivers a unique integration of data protection and cybersecurity in one. Acronis Cyber Protect Home Office, formerly Acronis True Image. Go to go.acronis.com/techguy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Yes, it's that time you all dread, the time a geek gets his own radio show and talks about geeky things. Computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches. I will endeavor in every moment to speak English, but I can't promise I will succeed. I'll just try, okay? I'll do my best. If I get too geeky, just say, hey, you're too geeky, man. You're too geeky. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, well, you can still call, but you have to use Skype or something like that. Some sort of voice over the internet doohickey. 8888 Ask Leo. After the show, the website has everything that we talk about on the show, including a transcript. It takes us a couple of days, but yeah, we got a full transcript, audio and video from the show. Transcript has what they call time code, so you can jump to that part of the show if you see something you're interested in, all of that. And that's all free and no charge, no admission fee, no sign up. TechGuyLabs.com. TechGuyLabs.com. Good news from the Department of Justice. They're no longer going to prosecute security researchers. What? Yes, apparently the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, which is, a very kind of strict law, is often used against legit security researchers. I know a few. I know one guy's gone to jail for nothing more than probing his company's system and then telling the company, hey, you got a problem. See, that's the thing. Companies don't like to hear that. They ought to learn, though, right? If you've got a flaw in your system and somebody discovers it, you ought to say, hey, thank you. In fact, you might even want to cut them a few bills and say, we appreciate it because you've been saved from a fate worse than death, a data breach. Of course, there's a very well-known and beloved figure in the community who actually was prosecuted using the CFAA, Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, for doing nothing more than liberating academic documents that he had legitimate access to, publishing them, because that's kind of a little scam that's going on. These academic papers, which are of great value to us as a society in many cases, are often hidden behind expensive paywalls, even though in many cases we paid for the research through government funding. Aaron Schwartz, who did many great things, liberated a few of them, and the feds went after him. He ended up killing himself because he was facing $1 million in fines and 35 years in prison, 2 counts of wire fraud, 11 violations of the CFAA. He was offered a plea bargain that would have given him 6 months in federal prison, declined it. This is back in 2013. Very sad. Very, very, very sad. He was arrested by MIT police. MIT police. So This is actually a big story. You would think, well, yeah, we shouldn't prosecute people who are doing legitimate security work, but it has really put a chill on security research. People are afraid of going to jail or paying millions of dollars in fines for simply finding flaws. It is very important that this happen. Deputy Attorney General Lisa O. Monaco said in a statement, computer security research is a key driver of improved cybersecurity. Well, yeah, the department has never been interested in prosecuting good faith computer security research as a crime. Some may dispute. Today's announcement promotes cybersecurity by providing clarity for good faith security researchers who root out vulnerabilities for the common good. We'll see, but good. Good. I think a lot of what goes on in society really comes from a fear of technology. The new is scary, and so because it's scary, we kind of maybe overreact sometimes. For instance, the New York State Attorney General is investigating Twitch, Discord, and other social media because the evil person who committed those atrocities in Buffalo tried to post a video of it as he was doing it in Twitch. Twitch shut it down almost immediately. I think only 40 people saw it on Twitch. He had a Discord, which is a chat kind of system. We have a Discord chat for the show, for all of our shows. It's very easy it's free, it's open, it's very easy to create a chat room. He apparently, before he did it, created a chat room with as many as 15 people joined to say, here's what I'm going to do. Now, admittedly, you should go after those 15 people because they knew ahead of time what he was about to do. Yeah, absolutely. But is it Twitch's fault or Discord's fault because he used those platforms? And if you think it is, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I mean, look, this was a horrific thing, but it is not Discord's fault or Twitch's fault. But the New York State Attorney General has launched an investigation. Launched an investigation. Okay, fine. I think the First Amendment protects, the regulation of speech by the government. However, that's not going to stop government from trying to regulate speech. The EU is proposing and probably will adopt a very strict law for for noble reasons. This is how it always is, though, right? They come up with a noble pretext so you can't say anything about it, and then they end up using it to snoop on us. The noble pretext is, well, we want to stop child sexual abuse material. So the EU is saying that all service providers have to monitor all traffic looking for both child sexual abuse material, pictures and things, and grooming behavior. And now the problem is that a lot of providers, including Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Signal Messenger, are end-to-end encrypted. They're designed intentionally to preserve the privacy of people on these messaging systems. That would, if this law becomes, it becomes a fact, if this proposed law becomes a fact in the EU, all of these companies would be responsible. And by the way, the EU specifically says it doesn't matter if it's encrypted. You still have to look into it. Well, then it's not encrypted. You might say, only the company can see it. Well, guess what? That doesn't last long. If there's a backdoor, if there's keys to encryption, eventually the bad guys get it. No, nobody's going to say, and I'm certainly not going to say, we don't need to go after child sexual abuse material or groomers. No, we do. But law enforcement really doesn't like it. They call it going dark. They don't like it that they can't see every single thing that's happening everywhere all the time. And they act as if that this new thing called encryption is going to make it impossible for them to do their jobs. But of course, if you think about it, technology has given law enforcement far more tools than ever before. Location material is being sold about us all the time to law enforcement without a warrant. All the time. Law enforcement has actually a very good picture of what's going on, much better than the pre-technological era. Before technology, You could call somebody and plan a crime. Oh, I guess they could do a wiretap. Well, that's fine with a warrant. Okay. But then you could go over to his house and talk about it. Or maybe stand out in the field and talk about it. There have always been ways to communicate without the snooping of law enforcement. For law enforcement to say, well, we can't allow any communication between people without our being able to watch it is a problem. And they're going to use, excuses like, well, we got to stop child abuse, because nobody's going to say, oh yeah, no, don't, that's it. Everybody's going to applaud that motive, but as Ronald Reagan used to say, watch your wallets. Well, it's not about wallets. Watch your communications, because really what they want is they want a perfect picture of everything the citizenry is up to at all times. And that is absolutely not the intent of the founders, the intent of the Fourth Amendment, the intent of any democracy, and yet that's what they want. And watch, because it's going to happen in the EU, and I predict, there's always been moves to make it happen here. Just something to be aware of. So good. I'm glad the feds say, well, we're not going to prosecute legit security researchers. We'll see. We'll see. And I don't think, investigating Twitch and Discord is going to do anything to prevent mass shootings. They're not, or 4chan. They're not critical to this. That's not the direction to go to stop it. What do you think? Do you deserve a modicum of privacy? 8888, ask Leo, the phone number, 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Coming up, our car guy, Sam Abuelsamid, photo guy, Chris Marquardt, space guy, Rod Pyle. It's going to be a great day. Stay right here. Sam. No Rod
Hello,
today?
Leo.
Okay. Who messed up your car?
That is the Tesla that belonged to Joshua Brown, the first known fatality of Autopilot.
Oh, God.
And I want to talk about the new documentary that the New York Times has just published. It's on Hulu. It's streaming on Hulu.
Oh, I'll watch it
called
tonight.
Elon Musk's Crash Course.
Oh, jeez. What a name.
Yeah.
Somebody called yesterday and was talking about George Hott's, Open Drive, comma.ai. Said he loved it. Have you ever tried it?
I have not.
He said it's really good.
It's
level 2. It's not attempting more than that.
It's not even really that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's barely that.
Yeah.
It does lane centering, and I don't know if it can control the brakes or not. I can't remember.
Yeah, it does adaptive cruise control, but only if the car does it. Really, all it's really doing is controlling the steering wheel. And I'm not inclined to recommend such a system for anybody to install such an aftermarket system. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I have got some updates on my vehicle schedule, my test vehicle schedule.
Yes.
I'm going to have the F-150 Lightning coming up in a couple of weeks.
Ooh, fun.
And I also got confirmation the other day that I'm going to get the Rivian R1T.
Ooh.
And I'm actually going to have both of them overlapping for a couple of days.
Nice.
I sent you an email the other day. I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if you're interested in doing a comparison test as a.
Will you be in the Bay Area, or you just want? Oh, you want to do it yourself? Yes, of course we're interested. Totally.
Okay.
I didn't see your email, or I would have immediately responded. I'll look through my mail.
Yeah, I'll shoot video with both of the trucks and have them side by side and do some comparison and
nice.
And then I'll put it up and send it over to Anthony.
Nice.
You guys can cut it together and put it on the Club Twit.
Very nice. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
The phone song of the weekend. Introducing, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the wonderful and talented Kim Schaffer, our unbreakable phone angel. Kimmy, don't take no Schaffer. Hello, Kim.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How was your dinner?
How did you know I went to dinner?
You told us yesterday, and I looked at the menu, and I am so picky, but I was salivating all over that sample menu. There's nothing on there that I wouldn't have eaten.
We have a new restaurant. I think because Petaluma is in the kind of not quite, but almost in the wine country.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in the border of the wine country, just like Napa. The town of Napa is in the border of the Napa Valley. We're in the border of the Sonoma Valley. I'm thinking maybe this is going to be an up-and-coming destination for gourmet travelers. Anyway, this restaurant is better than anything we've had here forever. So,
I think they're trying to be like that State Bird Provisions in the city.
well, that's my question. What the heck? So their name is the worst name ever. Table Culture Provisions. I can never remember it.
Yeah, State Bird for Provisions in the city. I guess there's a long waiting list for.
Yeah, that's a good restaurant too. But I think it's like the internet. They've run out of good names. So like Google, like they're coming up with weird, just doesn't have anything to do with anything names.
But as long as the food is good.
Well, Lisa says, you want to go to that restaurant that we never can remember the name of? And I'll go, yeah, that sounds good.
Let's make a plan.
So let's make a plan. Who should I talk to?
Let's go to Bob in Murrieta. I like his question because, again, it's one I don't think I've ever heard before.
That's a rarity. How many years have you been doing this with me?
Since 2013.
Holy moly, 9 years.
Totally full-time since 2017.
That's amazing.
But before that, it was Heather
That's
and
amazing. Yeah.
switching back and forth.
Well, anyway, you've heard most of the questions, so this will be
I've heard
good.
a lot of them.
This will be good. Hi, Bob. Thank you, Kim. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Welcome.
You certainly are. How are you?
I am great. How are you on this fine day? Memorial Day weekend coming up.
I want to get some expert advice. No pun intended, actual fact. I want to get some very good advice from you. This is regarding my doctors. They've come up with, I got an email a couple of days ago. They're setting up a portal.
A portal just for you?
Yeah. Well, for their entire customer base.
Oh, one of those Facebook portals.
Well, I won't call it Facebook.
Oh, well, what is it? What are they setting up? I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm sorry.
It's kind of setting up your medical history. They want your contact information.
Oh, yes.
Insurance,
Yeah.
medications,
Yeah.
past history.
Yeah.
So this, I'm reading. I think they're making a big mistake because what they said was how to do it. You enter the tva.ema.med into your search engine.
Yeah.
Then you enter your email address as your username. Okay, that's fine so far. Now, for the password, they're telling me what my password is supposed to be, which is my 2 initials and birth date.
Well, everyone knows that. Now, can you go in and change your password?
That's nothing about that. That's why I'm...
Oh, that's terrible. How hard is it to figure out what a person's initials and birth date are? That portal will be open to anybody who wants to look at it.
Bingo.
Oh, no, that's terrible. Probably also, you might mention to them there's this thing called the Health Insurance Privacy and something Act, HIPAA, H-I-P-A-A, HIPPA, Health Insurance Privacy and Portability Act, that protects that medical information like Fort Knox.
Exactly. That's what my wife has been telling me. And I said, well, before I embarrass myself in front of somebody at the doctor's office who's going to tell me that I don't know what the heck I'm talking about.
Well, get a recording of this. Play it for him. So, the idea of a portal is a great idea. Everybody's doing electronic medical records. My health insurance is through a company called Kaiser Insurance, Kaiser Permanente. They have and I use it all the time. I log into my portal. I see what inoculations I've had. I can get my blood work. I can see what the results were, that kind of thing. Very convenient. But that needs to be totally secure. And your email, birth date, and initials are pretty much, discernible in a variety of ways. For me, all you have to do is go to my Wikipedia entry and you get all of that. But, I mean, I think there are other ways for anybody to get that information. That's terrible. Now, if you go there and they say that's your initial password, because sometimes when the IT people will set up an account, they'll make the password change me. And then to remind you, that's a temporary password so you can get in, and now you should change it. So you might, before you put any private information in there, go log in and see if there's a change password field. I bet there is. I bet there is.
Hopefully and I'll take your advice, but here it tells you what to do. on the email here. It gave me the example how to do it. Before your next appointment, click on each category in My Health.
Yeah, do all that. Yep. But what'll happen? Have you gone to the site yet?
No.
I think the first time you go there and you'll log in with your email and your birth date and initials, before it lets you put anything in, if it's properly designed, it will say, okay, good. Now let's come up with a good, secure password for you.
I agree with that.
I think that's how they're going to do it. I'm going to guess that's how they're going to do it. Because otherwise, you're right, it's not safe.
Yeah.
But that's not an unusual thing to do. But your instinct, though, never, ever use anything like that for a password because it's easily discernible by a bad guy. Your password should be a long, as long as they'll let you make it, 12 characters at least, assorted numbers, upper and lowercase letters, and punctuation of all kinds. And it should be completely random. Ideally, it shouldn't be something you think you could even memorize. But that's why you have to use a password manager that has a vault where it stores that stuff so that you don't have to remember it. So absolutely. And my fear is that people are going to not change that default password. And it better not let you keep it because that's no good. Sam's coming up. We're going to talk cars right after this. Yeah, I'm going to guess if it's, especially because of HIPAA, medical, oh, he's gone. Oh, well. I was talking to him, but no one's listening. But medical sites like that are very, very highly protected. And usually, like you said, they're going to make him change
a password like that, and it's only good one time, and then as soon as you log in, it'll immediately prompt you to change it to something else.
I never use. I got the site the other day said this is here's a suggested password, which is reasonable, I guess, for them to, because people don't make good passwords. But in this case, I never even use those, even if they're clearly random, because I don't think anybody should know. And I have a good password manager, so I let it do it. I love Bitwarden now will let you create a random email as well as password, which is great.
Oh,
so you nice. Now it's really good. Now it's really good. Okay, we're going to talk about crashes. That is a horrific accident.
Yeah, well, and there was another one a couple of years ago that was almost identical. And it also happened in Florida.
But I have to point out, accidents happen in all vehicles all the time.
They do. But I think the difference here that has people concerned is that Musk keeps talking about this as a system that well, first of all, they sell it as full self-driving.
Yeah, that's a mistake. Yeah,
and then he keeps demoing that with his hands out the wheel, and there's all kinds of videos of him, and he will retweet videos that other people post showing them driving with their hands off the wheel, and talks about when their cars are suddenly going to transform into robo-taxis, and so what I want to talk about more today though is this specific documentary, which has some flaws. It's not bad, but it has some flaws. And, I think one of the things that they really missed an opportunity was to really look at what happened with NHTSA and why NHTSA hasn't done anything.
Yes.
Particularly with the Josh Brown crash.
Yes.
And, they had one NHTSA staffer that they talked to in the film. But they also talked to a couple of people from the NTSB, Robert Sumwalt, the chairman of the NTSB, and one other member of the NTSB, who's been involved in a couple of these Tesla investigations. And the NTSB has made some excellent recommendations, and NHTSA has done nothing to push automakers to actually implement that.
Yeah. So is it a bad documentary, you think, or? It's
not bad. It's just not as good as it could have been. I think it's a missed opportunity. It does. If you watch, I think it's worth watching because you do get some information. Certainly some history of what's gone on. But I think that I think there's some people that they should have talked to that they didn't. People like Dr. Philip Koopman from Carnegie Mellon University. I actually talked to the director. She interviewed me back last October, and that wasn't used. But and I don't know if she even talked to some of these other people. But I think that there's people that should have been included in there, like Phil Koopman. I also pointed her at a lawyer named Jennifer Dukarski, who is an expert in a lot of this stuff. And I think that it would have been worthwhile to have some of these other people included in there to look at what's gone wrong from a regulatory standpoint.
Right. Yes. Our show today. I'm so excited. Brought to you by Peloton. I'm kind of you probably heard me talk about my Peloton a little bit. Kind of a Peloton buff. That would be understating the case. I got my Peloton bike, the original Peloton bike, several years ago. And I was using it all the time. It's my favorite thing ever. And it gets better all the time. We love our Peloton. You might not feel motivated to get up and get moving. You might not feel like you have time to fit the workout into the day. Workout classes fill up. Sometimes you don't really want to go to the gym. It's easy to get shut out. That's why you want to try Peloton. So I love classes. I really did. But the schedule didn't always fit my schedule. I wanted the idea. I really loved the idea of doing it when I felt like it, on my own terms and on my own time. That's why I got the Peloton bike. It's got a nice big screen. It's got I love Cody. I can watch them live, be part of a large group doing the class all at the same time. They'll even shout out. They'll say hi, or you can do on demand. They've added a lot of nice features. You can go on a nice ride through the countryside, and they have a game now, which I play a lot. I really like it. It's kind of like Rock Band or Lightsaber. You're turning the knob and trying to keep time with the music. It's a great way to exercise, have fun while you're doing it. Their instructors are so great. They're there whenever you want. You want to get up in the morning, 3 a.m, and ride? You can do it. They're highly trained fitness pros. You probably saw Cody on Dancing with the Stars, man. He's amazing. They're all wonderful. They motivate you through every workout, whether you're a regular at the gym or someone who's new and getting back into working out. They don't just teach, they motivate. They get you feeling good. And you end every class. I love Emma Lovewell. She says, live well, love well at the end. And you end the class and you're just going, I feel good. I feel good. And I always try to remember that feeling because, sometimes you get up, you don't want to work out, you don't want to do anything. Peloton has treadmills now. I use one at my trainer's barn. He has the Peloton bike and the treadmill, and I use the treadmill all the time. Nicest treadmill ever. They have stretch classes you can do before or after you use the gear. They actually have all sides, strength training, yoga now. You can try new types of movement. No one's looking down their nose at you. You're on your own. You can do it at a level and a pace that feels good for you. It gets you moving, and that's the point, right? Make every workout a good time with Peloton. You can do whatever you want with the music, too. That's the other thing I like. I just did the game with, Lady Rockers of the 90s, I think it was. Well, I loved every song. It was so great. So great. Whether you're looking for a 10-minute upper body stretch between calls, a 40-minute run before bed, or just a light bike ride in the country, it's got it all on the same Peloton. You'll never have an awkward encounter in the locker room again. I love my Peloton. I use it all the time. Right now is a great time to try a Peloton. Peloton. They've reduced the price. The Peloton Bike Plus is $500 less. That's the lowest price they've ever offered. It includes, and you definitely want to get this, free delivery and setup. And by the way, like I said, I've had mine. I think I've had it for 4 or 5 years. I got it when they first started. And it is perfect. Perfect. Never had a problem with it. Lots of game-changing prices available now. If you've ever looked before and gone, I don't know, go back. Peloton, bikes and treads. I just love them. Visit onepeloton.com to learn more. It's funny. I'm lifting weights with my trainer, and he says, "Okay, Time for a little Tabata on the Peloton. I get on there, man. I tell you, it's hard, but I feel so good afterwards. It really makes a difference. We've been trying to, ever since I bought my Peloton, I've been saying, you should advertise. I would love to tell people about this Peloton. I'm telling them about it anyway. It's the greatest thing ever. OnePeloton.com is the address. OnePeloton.com. This is a revolution, I think, in exercise. Doing it on your own time, as you want, anytime. I love it. Love you, Peloton. He's our low-riding guy, car expert Sam Abuelsamid joins us every week to talk about cars. He's a principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights, does the great Wheel Bearings podcast at wheelbearings.media. Hi, Sam.
Hey, Leo. How are you this week?
I'm great. I certainly hope that trashed car behind you is not your Miata.
No, thankfully, mine was built with the roof removed right from the factory.
Yeah, that one had its roof removed somehow. Not voluntarily, I'm thinking.
Yeah, no. The car behind me, if you're watching the stream, is a Tesla Model S that was owned by Joshua Brown, who was the first known fatality while using Tesla Autopilot.
Oh dear!
And this was in May of 2016. As it turns out, it was about a week before the first time I got to drive a Model S with Autopilot. And at the time when I drove it, this crash had not yet become public. It was not published anywhere. The local authorities knew about it. The National Transportation Safety Board knew about it, and NHTSA knew about it, but it was not. It had not been reported anywhere. And what happened in this particular instance was that Brown was using Autopilot. He was driving down a highway in Florida. It was not a limited access highway like an interstate. A tractor trailer turned left in front of him. And it had a white trailer, and the system failed to recognize that this was a truck.
Oh, I remember that. It was across the road.
He was not paying attention, and his car basically ran under the trailer and sliced the roof off. And it was a fatal crash. And there was another very similar crash in 2019 in Florida, also on a very similar kind of road. Almost exact same scenarios with a Model 3. It was a newer generation of Autopilot, and it still did the exact same thing. And the reason I bring this up today is there's a new documentary that just came out on Hulu on Friday. It's directed by a woman named Emma Schwartz. It was published by the New York Times. It's called Elon Musk's Crash Course. And
it gives you some idea of what it's going to be about.
Yeah,
wow.
The overall topic of the film is to take a look at the development and problems of Autopilot and full self-driving at Tesla. And it's not a bad film, but I think that it was, I watched it, I got a screener of it, and I thought it was kind of a missed opportunity. They spent, the first portion of the film, looks at the origins of Tesla and the DARPA Grand Challenge, the beginning of developing automated driving systems. And then it gets into Joshua Brown, and it spends, personally, I think, an inordinate amount of time on Brown himself, on who he was, why he was so interested in testing Autopilot, talking to some of his friends. And I think that, that was, some of that background is fine. It's useful, but I think to most viewers, it would have been more useful if they spent more time looking at the issues of why, what are the real problems with Autopilot and Tesla's full self-driving approach, and why have regulators not done anything about it. They did talk to one former NHTSA staffer. NHTSA is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, one staffer who was involved in this investigation. He's no longer with NHTSA. And they also talked to a couple of members from the NTSB, including Robert Sumwalt, who's the chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board. And the NTSB and NHTSA are two different agencies within the federal government that are both tasked with trying to improve transportation safety, but from different perspectives. The NTSB is an investigatory body that has no enforcement or regulatory authority. So when crashes happen, not just with vehicles, not just with cars, but with trains, aircraft, shipping, any kind of transportation accident, they go in and investigate and make recommendations. And that's all they can do is make recommendations. So they'll issue a report and make recommendations. And they're very well respected. And then it's up to, in the case of ground vehicles, NHTSA to actually look at, okay, how do we take these recommendations and promulgate regulations to make roads safer? And given that, we just had NHTSA just issued their preliminary findings for 2021 traffic safety when we reached almost 43,000 fatalities last year. That's a 10.5% increase from 2020. And the highest number of fatalities we've had on our roads since 2005. It's important for us to be doing more to improve traffic safety. And I think that NHTSA has really fallen down on the job when it comes to automated driving. They've started to do more in the past year with at least data gathering. But back in 2016, when they had this investigation, the NTSB put out a really good, really thorough report on this crash that NHTSA did nothing with. They, in fact, they issued their own report that included some data that they got from Tesla directly, which was later debunked. That claimed that cars operating on autopilot got into 40% fewer crashes than those without autopilot, and that once somebody actually somebody spent a couple of years trying to do FOIA requests to get the actual data that was given to NHTSA that this claim was based on, and they once they actually got it and started going through it, they found that the claim was complete nonsense. In fact, cars with autopilot were actually getting into more crashes, and I think that the director of this film probably should have put more emphasis on why have regulators not done anything to at least to do things like have more robust driver monitoring systems in vehicles to mandate that if you're going to have any kind of partial automation systems like this. And actually next week I want to talk about driver monitoring systems because I got a really good demo on Friday. I went to Magna, a major auto parts supplier, and got a great demo on what they're doing with this. But, Tesla, among the companies that are doing these more advanced systems, they're the only ones that aren't using active driver monitoring systems. And I think it would have been.
They make you hold the wheel, though. Isn't that active driving?
Well, except that they don't really have they tell you to hold the wheel, but they don't really enforce it very well.
Well, they did on my Tesla. Man, at one point I'm driving down the road. They said, no more FSD for you. you didn't respond, and they turned it off. So I didn't have my adaptive cruise control.
They're using a torque sensor in the steering wheel.
Exactly.
Which is not a very reliable means of measuring if your hands are actually on the wheel.
My Mustang uses, though? I don't have Blue Cruise yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, your Mach-E does use the same system. I have talked to Ford about and complained to them about that approach as well.
Why is that dangerous? I mean, it does show you're interested, you're paying attention.
Well, not necessarily. It shows that there's torque input on the steering wheel, but it's very easy to fool that.
I can just tie a string to
you can find you can stick an orange or something in between the steering wheel spokes.
Why would
that'll be enough?
That's stupid.
Yes.
But people will do dumb things, and I guess that's the point.
They will. And
I
loved.
I didn't ever had FSD, but I loved my, lane keeping, and I never did want on the Tesla to use the lane changing, though. It seemed to be very aggressive and not in a way I was comfortable with. Sam Abuelsamid, Guidehouse Insights. Thank you as always.
Thank you.
Still waiting for my Blue Cruise, but I'm not in a hurry. I don't really mind not having it right away.
You're not. To be honest, you're not really missing much. Yeah, you're better off with just the lane centering and the.
That's fine, and I do use that every time I'm on the freeway, and it's very convenient, and I like it. Okay. Do you want to stick around as usual?
Anything. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to give you control of the con here.
All right. So just to elaborate a little bit on this whole torque sensor thing in the steering wheel, the reason why it's not a very good system is what it's doing is it's looking for input on the steering wheel. So it's assuming that as you're driving down the road, if your hands are on the wheel, there's going to be a little bit of motion from your hands, and you're going to have some motion there.
Right.
And when the system is making steering corrections, it's also assuming that there's going to be some reaction torque. So your hands are perhaps not going to move quite as aggressively as the steering wheel, and so when it's seeing that reaction torque, then it assumes that your hands are on the wheel. And the reason why things like this idea of sticking a water bottle or an orange, there was a company for a while that was selling a little weight that you could clip onto one of the steering wheel spokes.
Why would you do that? So stupid.
So when the system would automatically turn the steering wheel, it would feel that weight and assume that it was your hands on the wheel, which was not. And so there's that, and then there's also the opposite side of that, which is something that I've experienced on some Ford vehicles, which is false positives. If you actually drive down the road, if you're driving straight down the road and you have your hands on the wheel and you hold the wheel very steady, then it assumes that if you're holding the wheel steady, that there's nobody touching the wheel. It's assuming that everybody's going to have a little bit of shake on the wheel,
right?
And so that's not good either, because then you end up getting a lot of false positive alerts to put your hands back on the wheel. So if what you want to do is actually measure does somebody have their hands on the wheel, it's better to do that in a more direct way. And the way that some automakers, including General Motors and Stellantis and BMW and Mercedes-Benz and Audi, is they put capacitive sensors in the steering wheel, inside the steering wheel. So when you are physically touching the wheel, it's like touching your phone screen, your touch screen. When you are physically touching the wheel, it will sense that. And so you don't have to actually move the wheel, just touching it, having your hands on the wheel is sufficient. So there's that. And then the other thing that you want is, to look at the driver's eyes, because all of these systems are designed to be, eyes on systems, where you are still watching the road. And so what you want to do is you want to be looking at where is the driver looking. And so one of the things you'll see in your Mach-E, Leo, even if you have even without the Blue Cruise, it will actually if you are looking away from the wheel. I think on yours, if you look away from the road for more than about 4 or 5 seconds, it will start to alert you to put your eyes back on the road. Yeah. If you're using the adaptive cruise control. And that's the kind of thing that you want. If you're relying on the human driver to be the supervisor, then you want to actually look. You want direct. You don't want derivative signals like a torque sensor. You want direct signals. Look at where the driver's eyes are pointing. Look at where measure where their hands are actually at. Are they actually on the steering wheel? And then you can have a more reliable system.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo the phone number. On we go with the show. Say hello to Gary in Laguna Niguel, California. Hi, Gary.
Oh, I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
Well, anyways, I just wanted to comment about what Sam and you were talking about.
Okay.
Boy, this autonomous driving. Oh, my God. I can't think of anything more dangerous than autonomous driving.
we've been saying for a long time. I remember the very first Grand DARPA challenge many moons ago, maybe 20 years ago. The idea of the Grand DARPA challenge was a challenge to create self-driving vehicles. And I think in 2004 they started it. And I remember the first Grand DARPA challenges, they couldn't go 10 feet without veering off the road, these robotic cars. But we've made a lot of progress. But as with many things in computers, the first 80% was pretty easy. And the last 10% is almost impossible, whether it's voice recognition, handwriting recognition, or self-driving. It's that last bit that gets you every time. And I feel like we may never get there. Go ahead.
But, Leo, what does Sam think about it? Because Sam, like me, he's a true car guy. Sam has a lot more knowledge on, especially writing articles and things like that. I just have a lot of knowledge working on cars, restoring my 67 Camaro.
Yeah.
And trying to keep my Jeep Grand Cherokee working because the Toyota RAV4 I bought was bought back. And I just...
That Grand Cherokee's a classic. You keep that running. That's a classic.
Well, the problem is, Leo, it's a 1999 that's got 251,000 miles on it now.
Oh, man. Put an electric motor in there. Just no self-driving.
No. Well, you obviously know how I feel about electric.
See, I love electric vehicles.
Oh, I know.
And unfortunately, I think the idea is, well, we're innovating there. We should innovate in every respect to the point where the Model 3 doesn't even have physical buttons for the lane change indicator and stuff. Sam is actually still on the line. Let me ask him your question.
Sure.
We were talking in the chat rooms. Elon announced again just a couple of days ago that we're only 1 year away from full self-driving vehicles that can.
Have we suddenly gone back in time to 2016?
And then I found a supercut video of him announcing that in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2018, 2019. Every year for the last 8 years, Elon has said no human drivers next year.
What we need is manual transmissions.
Then you have to have a human.
I don't disagree with that.
Sam, you tell me about this, Sam. You have a Miata. You obviously have a manual transmission in it. When you are driving that vehicle, tell me if you don't have 100% donated from your thought to your right foot, to your left foot, to your right hand shifting. See, this is a problem I see with modern vehicles. Now, this is just another opinion from a person like me. I'm 64 years old. I have a lot of experience with cars. Also a lot of experience photographing the wildlife. But the way I look at cars nowadays, cars are so automated. Cars are so dangerous the way they are. If you look at manual...
But wait a minute, Gary. Because I do feel like historically cars have been killers since, day one. I feel like they're maybe safer now. And we know humans, especially in the day of smartphones, are horribly inattentive regardless of the ability of the car to drive itself. So a little bit of driver assist, I don't think is a bad thing. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think when you actually have to be more engaged in the process, then you tend to be more attentive. If you are shifting manually, one thing we've never ever heard about is cases of sudden unintended acceleration with a manual transmission. It's only with automatic transmissions.
Right, Sam. Thank you.
Well, let's go back to cranking the car, because if you have to go all the way around the car to crank the engine, you're going to make sure there are no toddlers in the way. Let's go back. Well, in fact, let's bring back horses. Nobody ever got, well, maybe nobody, but a lot fewer people got run over by horses.
Yeah,
and nobody ran a stop sign with a horse.
I will say, cars today are...
Gary, you've got a real nostalgia for the good old days. I think automatic transmissions are here to stay. I really do.
Well, here, let's look at earlier today. The Spanish Grand Prix was on. I watched the entire race. Now, when you watch Formula One...
Don't tell me the winner, because I haven't watched it yet. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. When we watch what happens in auto racing, passes over to the passenger cars. Now, even with the transmissions the way they are in Formula One, you still have to let out the clutch. And then you have the paddle shifters, up for the right and down for left. You have to manually shift even race cars.
And the really good news is there hasn't been a Formula One fatality in a couple of years now. So
there has.
Yeah.
Grosjean had a really
that was a bad one. Yeah. Don't tell me who won today because I haven't watched it yet.
It was a car with 4 wheels and a couple of wings.
Absolutely.
So, I understand what you're saying, Gary, but time does move on. Ultimately, I mean, look, nobody's going to force everybody to have a stick shift.
But it's so sad you can't even get a stick shift in most modern,
you can't buy one. Yeah,
muscle cars.
Yeah.
Well, that's because most customers don't want to buy them.
Yeah.
I think the real issue here, to what Gary's saying, is that with some of these more advanced systems, I think there's a lot of benefit to systems like lane keeping assist, blind spot monitoring.
You still have to drive. And that's the problem.
With these more advanced systems, we're starting to get into an uncanny valley where as they become more capable, the drivers are not good at supervising the automation. When you actually have to drive, then you're better. But if you have to supervise a partially automated system, it becomes, if it works most of the time, it's very easy to become complacent, which is why you must have more robust driver monitor systems to make sure the driver stays engaged.
Because people will, if you give them a chance, they'll start sending Instagram photos. And so you gotta make sure. I honestly, I hope we get to full self-driving sooner than later. Because in the long run, if every car on the road had full self-driving software, I think it would be a much safer environment. Problem is we're, as you said, in that uncanny in-between time where drivers are still required. But imagine a future where every single car is a living room on wheels with no steering wheel, no brakes, and they're talking to one another. I think there would be few, if any, accidents because now you might not get to your destination as fast because they, as we've seen in Phoenix and elsewhere, they're very patient to a fault. I think that's going to be a safer environment. How many people die every year in auto accidents, Sam? It's over 50,000?
Last year, it was just shy of 43,000.
43. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people dying unnecessarily there, guys.
You mean if they all had stick shifts, they wouldn't die?
Well, I'm not saying...
Well, there'd be a lot fewer people driving.
But...
So there probably would be fewer fatalities.
No, you know what happened during COVID? Fewer people driving? More fatalities, right? Because people sped.
From 2019 to 2020, the numbers went up quite a bit because there were more people driving too fast and driving recklessly.
Yeah.
And so we did have...
So fewer people on the road does not necessarily mean fewer fatalities.
Yeah.
In fact, we know it doesn't because it didn't in 2020. I'm a radical on this, and Gary, you're going to hate me when I say this, but I think personal car ownership should end as soon as possible.
No.
I know.
No.
As soon as possible. Cars have been the single worst invention of humanity. They've polluted the airs. They've polluted the environment. They polluted the streets. They make it impossible for people to walk and bike. Cities where cars are banned are much more livable, much better environments for human beings. The air cleared up that's one thing that did happen during COVID. The air cleared up because of fewer vehicles. Birds and animals came back. I know you love birds, Gary. I honestly think personal car ownership is the worst thing that happened in the 20th century. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I'm sure everybody disagrees with me when I say that. All right, Sam, your turn.
I would say that certainly personal car ownership in urban areas.
I'm not saying cars should go away. Personal car ownership should end.
We need transportation. I mean,
we need trucks. I'm not saying that.
Our world has evolved, in a way that we do rely on transportation to get around, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we all need to own our own vehicles.
It's made our cities inhumane. Honestly,
yes, I totally
it's
agree.
Created the suburbs, which are a bad idea. I mean, I think when people look back in history, if we have history at some point, they will say, "Boy, that was a bad idea. That was a bad idea."
Yeah, I mean, There were benefits, but there was probably on a net basis, there's probably more harm than good from vehicles, especially from internal combustion. And the funny thing is, if you go back to the beginning of the 20th century, there were actually more electric vehicles on the road than there were internal combustion because there was no gasoline fueling infrastructure. But as soon as that gasoline fueling infrastructure started to evolve, people made the switch from electric to gas because it was so much more convenient. Because the batteries of the era had so little capacity, so little range, that those vehicles weren't as useful as they could be. But now what we're starting to see is a shift back in the other direction. As battery technology has evolved, we're getting more and more charging stations installed. That is changing, and I think we're going to see over the course of this decade a real shift, and we're already starting to see a dramatic shift towards electrification, and in a lot of regions, like particularly in Europe. A lot of automakers have said in Europe by 2030 they don't plan to sell internal combustion engines anymore. Several automakers, especially premium automakers, but even mainstream like Volvo, Audi, Ford, and others, have said that by 2030 they will not be selling any internal combustion vehicles in Europe anymore. And so, this is a significant shift that will make a difference, but we also need different transportation options, especially in urban areas. We need to get more people into micromobility, mass transit, and then in smaller vehicles, that are better suited to the use case. And the thing is, if you don't own the vehicle, then you have it's easier to make that shift to having the right vehicle for each trip. When you have to own a vehicle, you tend to end up buying the vehicle that you need for your worst case use case. So you buy a big SUV or a pickup truck, because you need to tow a boat to the lake a couple of times a year, and that's not a and then the rest of the year you're underutilizing that vehicle. So, ideally what you want is to have the right vehicle for every trip. And if we make that shift away from personal ownership, then that would be better. Or just get everybody to own smaller vehicles and then just rent. For those occasional times when you need a larger vehicle, then rent something. That would also be a better solution. But let's see. Look at the chat here. Somebody was asking when I thought FSD would become a reality. When do you think we'll get? Chevy guy said, when do you think we'll get to FSD cars? I think it's going to be quite a while before we have vehicles that we can buy that truly have true self-driving, automated driving capability. I think what we're going to see first for consumer vehicles is vehicles that can do almost a complete driving task on things like highways, where it's a more limited operating domain, where you don't have intersections, you don't have pedestrians and cyclists. That's going to be the first thing you see for consumer vehicles. But right now, actually, we're starting to see more and more true automated vehicles, expansion of those kinds of deployments. Just this past week, Waymo announced that they're expanding. They've been running driverless robotaxis in the suburbs of Phoenix for a couple of years now, on certain limited areas. They're expanding that area where those vehicles can operate into downtown Phoenix. Argo AI, which is majority owned by Ford and Volkswagen, announced this week that they are starting driverless testing. They've been doing testing in a number of cities for about 5-6 years now, but they're launching driverless testing in Miami and Austin, Texas. And what they're doing first, they're following a similar pattern to what Waymo did, where they they've actually got vehicles operating as robotaxis on Lyft in Austin and Miami with safety drivers, much as Motional does in Las Vegas with Lyft. And then Argo also has their own ride-hailing and dispatch platform similar to Lyft or Uber, and they're using that with employees right now for full driverless tests in DC and Miami. So if you work for Argo, in Austin and Miami, if you work for Argo in either of those cities, you can use the Argo app and summon a ride from one of the Argo vehicles without a safety operator in there. Cruise and Waymo are also both running driverless vehicles in San Francisco and carrying members of the public. They're not yet allowed to charge for those rides. They're free rides because it's still a test program, but they are carrying members of the public in driverless vehicles. So, they're out there today. It's expanding in China. There's 4 or 5 different companies in about half a dozen cities that are doing driverless operations, and we will continue to see more and more of that. But the key to all of this is these are all vehicles, systems that are designed from the ground up to be fully automated. They have multiple types of sensors that are very robust and much more robust computing power than what you will find in any production vehicle today. So, they have, typically multiple types of LiDAR sensors, multiple types of radar, multiple cameras. In some cases, like the Cruise and the Waymo vehicles, they've also got thermal imaging sensors. So they have a much more complete picture of the world around them in all different kinds of conditions, which is the problem with what Tesla is doing, with relying on cameras. You actually can make that work in certain conditions. But it's never going to have the fail operational capability that you need. So if something goes wrong with one of those cameras, you need to have something else that can back it up and verify what you're seeing. And because machine vision systems are not perfect, they don't always recognize things exactly as they are. And cameras in particular are not good, especially the way that Tesla is using them, they're not good at measuring distance. They're using inference to try to measure how far away something is and how fast it's moving. And that's not a reliable approach. They're good for classification, but you need active sensors like radar or LiDAR to get accurate distance measurements and orientation measurements. And orientation is really important because you need to measure the trajectory of all the targets around you so that you can predict what they're going to do, which is another key piece of this puzzle. So it's a lot more complicated than just vision. And
I feel like if all cars, like if you could flip a switch, which you can't, but if inter-car communication were enabled and all cars were autonomous, it'd be a lot more likely to work, right? I mean, part of the problem is we've got humans in the mix.
Yes and no. It's actually good that we have humans in the mix because the software that we have is still not, in many ways, not as good as the human brain.
So at some point, though, when the software, we need the software to be better. And then we just need to pull the plug.
But there's a long way to go.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah. All right,
have a great one. We'll talk next week.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy talking computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smart watches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. 888-827-5536, toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Pat on the line from Monrovia, California. Hi, Pat.
Hi, I just heard a bong there. It startled me a little bit.
Oh, sorry. The bong is the signal that you are on. Wake up. Sorry about that. I don't control the bong. If it were me, it'd be a nice little flute tone, but I don't have any control over that.
Long time no see. I talked to you pre-pandemic. And
wow.
I had the internet radio station, which we're trying to revive this very moment.
Oh, you still are? Still working on it?
Yeah, it's still electrical-radio.com, but it was gone for 2 years.
Why was that?
The company that handled our rights management went out of business.
Oh.
With the company.
And you know why they went out of business? Because the music industry does not like the idea.
Yeah, they got in dust up with ASCAP is the main reason.
Yep, ASCAP, which is the licensing. ASCAP BMI is the licensing agent for music publishers, and they don't like the internet. We don't like the internet. It's a den of thieves. Thieves, I tell you.
I will try and keep it going at least for the rest of this year and
Good.
see what.
Good.
All music, no commercials at the moment. I plan to keep it that way.
Nice. Say the address again,
Electrical-radio.com.
Radio.com. Eclectic music. That's clever. That rocks. Nice.
So we try and drop little odd oldies and obscure music in with a lot of new and a lot of old.
And I shouldn't say this out loud, given that I'm currently an employee of iHeartMedia and Premier Radio Networks, but I miss the days of radio where you had these little eclectic stations like KFAT out of Gilroy, California, that just would play stuff that you just don't hear on mainstream radio. Of course, there's probably no way to make money doing that, but I sure miss it. It was a great way to hear music and to hear from people who love music. They're still out there, I guess, and their record collections.
Yeah, I'll plug our local college station, too, 885fm.org from Cal State, Northridge.
Yeah.
No commercials and all music.
It's where I got started. College radio is a great thing. I'm glad we still do that anyway. So what can I do for you, Pat?
This is a question that cannot be answered, I guess, in an internet search. I guess it's a discussion, but I had an old, it's old now, Toshiba 32-inch LCD TV. And, I had money in, thanks to COVID, one of the few things that did good for us. I had money in the bank, so I bought a new OLED
nice
LG
5-inch. Yeah.
And I noticed that occasionally I'll be streaming something and the sound and the picture will be out of sync, which never happened with my old one. I wonder if that happens more often in bigger screen sizes.
No. The problem is that is compression. Decompressing video is slower than decompressing audio because the video files are massive. And everything's sent compressed in some form, so the TV decompresses it. If it's got a slower processor, you'll notice it more. Or, I guess in a way, what you said is true. If it's a bigger video picture, if it's a 4K picture with carrying a lot more information, that's going to take more time to decompress. So almost all TVs, AV receivers, many other devices that play audio and video will have a way of slowing down the audio to match the video.
So my strategy lately is if I'm going to have friends over and want to see a movie, just in case, I download it first.
Yeah, that will be better for sure.
10%.
Yeah,
it happens about 10% of the time.
What device are you using that you have trouble keeping the sync?
I'm using an Apple TV connection.
Apple TV, okay.
LG C10.
See, the Apple TVs are pretty good in that regard. I think they must have built in some sort of mechanism for keeping synchronization going. We first started seeing it with satellite TV, DirecTV, Dish, because they had to heavily compress to send it over the satellite, and as a result, the decompression, sometimes took a while. And of course, our human brains are so well attuned to even the smallest difference, even a few milliseconds, you start to notice it. So there's.
Yeah, I was watching. You may remember the old film. It's a John Ford film, I guess. The Quiet Man.
Oh, what a film! What a movie! Yeah.
And there's a scene where the character played by John Wayne is chasing his lady friend through the Irish countryside, and they splash through a little creek, and you see them.
The steps are off,
and then 2 seconds later you hear it.
See, that's funny because that's not a 4K video you're getting there.
Well, they may be. Well, I don't know what the transfer is.
They may be upscaling it. There may be all sorts of things going on. Yeah. So I'm not going to suspect the Apple TV. You should look in the settings for your LG. I don't remember offhand.
Yeah, but I mean, it only happens on occasion. I don't want to change the settings for everything, I don't think.
How are you playing back the sound?
It goes through the TV and then into my stereo system, so it's an HDMI cable.
Okay, so that's also adding some latency, obviously. Try your TV and your stereo both have an optical connection. that's separate from the HDMI. So HDMI carries both audio and video, and so you can have the ARC channel, the audio return channel, which will take audio created inside the TV. Let's say you're watching Netflix on LG's smart TV platform. It will pass it out to the stereo, and in that case, you do want to be, you understand you want the ARC, but all these TVs now have a little optical port. And most stereos, if it's an AV receiver, it will certainly have an optical in. I would try the optical in. That, believe it or not, might be more reliable.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's too bad Apple TV doesn't have that directly anymore.
Yeah, I know. Because it is coming from the Apple TV over the HDMI. I'm just wondering. I honestly think it's the TV at this point that's either that or the audio chain. There may be some latency being introduced by the audio chain. So that's why I thought maybe optical would be better.
One other question. If I had faster internet speed, do you think it would be less likely to happen?
No.
Okay.
Because the file's coming down as a blob. And
movie too.
Yeah, the blob, great. The Thing, the blob. It comes down as a blob, and that includes the audio and the video in one blob. So they're getting there at the same time. It's the decompression. Somebody's telling me LG does have lip sync. They call it lip sync adjust in their sound settings. So I would take a look at that. You can adjust it by a frame or two, and it might be that it's funny that it's worse, and sometimes does the Quiet Man always do that?
I tried it on a couple of different occasions. I know when I was watching it, I stopped it for a few minutes, started again. It kept doing it. I finally gave up.
Yeah.
But it never happens on anything I've downloaded, and most of the time it doesn't happen. It's just once in a while.
I'll watch The Quiet Man on my Apple TV and my LG and see. It might well be that it was encoded poorly. I mean, it is an old movie. It might be that when they it can happen in the creation thereof, and at that point the delay would still help. You're fixing the original source material.
You got to go in there.
But you got to go in before you play The Quiet Man. You got to go in. You got to adjust and so forth.
Seems a bit dangerous.
Yeah. So it can happen all along the chain. It can happen in encoding. Once it comes down from the internet, more internet speed won't. Well, if it doesn't buffer, does it?
No, not anymore.
No. If it were buffering, maybe that would cause some desynchronization. But as long as you have 50 megabits down or better, I think it's not going to be an internet speed thing. I think
I'm going to stick to my current strategy. I
but
guess.
you now know. But as long as you know what's causing it, now you can kind of try different things around it. It fundamentally comes down to the audio coming in too quickly because it's working on the video still, and even a couple of a frame would be enough for you to notice it for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, a pleasure talking to you. I hope you keep the radio station going.
We will try.
Love it.
Thanks a lot.
Electrical-radio.com.
Eclectic music and rock music all mixed in there. It's fun, everybody. It's fun.
It's fun. And apparently some cheesy jokes, too. So,
if possible, Matt. Cheese, yeah.
Pleasure talking to you, Matt. Have a great day.
You too. So long.
Thanks. 8888 Ask Leo. The phone number, Chris Marquardt is getting ready for his segment in about 15 minutes. Our photo guy. We'll continue to take your calls. Continue to talk tech. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. A tech guy who hates cars. I would love to give up my car. I want a bicycle to work every day, but I'm scared to death of all the vehicles on the road. There's no safe way to do it. Thank you, Mike B. I don't think I get any credit for it, though, but I'm glad you did. Glad you did. They stopped advertising at the end of the year, and I don't think they have any plans to come back. It's probably a good thing, though, if they see that offer code, they'll go, well, it could go either way. It could go, oh, see, we don't really need to advertise. People will still sign up for it. Or it could go, oh, we should get back on that show. We really did well with that show. Oh, I'm sure it still works. I did, for a long time, I did bike to work. I love my e-bike. But after the bridge that I go over, which has no bike lane to speak of, after a guy got creamed there. There's a ghost bike on the bridge where he was killed by an errant driver. I decided, I need a big steel thing around me to go down these roads, which is very sad. That's the problem. I mean, what you buy into cars, you create an addiction. You create a need because people move far away. You got the suburbs. People live their lives as if transportation is cheap and easy. Problem is, it isn't really cheap. Hey, this portion of the Tech Guy Show brought to you by a great company we've been using for years, Acronis. You've heard me talk about Acronis True Image. I've recommended on the show for many years as the best way to make a digital image of your hard drive for backup, for security, for safety. Well, Acronis has enhanced Acronis True Image. They now call it Acronis Cyber Protect Home Office, and it does two things to protect your data. First of all, of course, good backups, very important. Acronis True Image, their imaging product, makes it a perfect copy of your hard drive, not just the data, but everything, the operating system, the apps, that can be instantly restored. It just takes a couple of minutes. You can even restore individual files from the backup. And now Acronis allows you to store it locally or on the Acronis cloud. So it's full cloud backup as well. That's fantastic. But they realize there's another threat to your data. And, of course, cyber attacks, ransomware, all the little beasties and malware that can come in over the internet. So they've added protection for your data, cybersecurity, data protection, all in one with Acronis Cyber Protect Home Office. Everything you need to safeguard your device. And I love this because it's not just Windows. It's Windows, it's Mac, it's Android, it's iOS. Back up what you want, where you want, locally to the cloud. Restore your entire system or individual files. You can restore it to the same hardware or new hardware. It's a great way to move to a new PC and take all your applications with you. You can create cloud-to-cloud backups, too. This is something new. I love this, of your Microsoft 365 account. Get your entire Outlook mailbox backed up, your OneDrive, and you don't have to download it and upload it. It just sideloads it cloud to cloud. From Microsoft's cloud to the Acronis cloud. This is brilliant. Plus the best advanced cybersecurity. Stop any cyber attack from damaging your data, your applications, your system. You can block attacks in real time before malware or ransomware or cryptojackers can cause damage. Find any hidden infections lurking on your system. I'll tell you why this is nice. When you make a disk image, you're copying everything, right? So you want to really scan it first to make sure you're not copying any malware, not taking that along with you. That's why you need both. Reduce the cost, the complexity, and risk of using multiple incompatible solutions. Get both great backup and great cyber threat protection in one program. 2-click setup, set and forget options means you'll spend less time fussing with it. You can just rest assured your entire digital world is protected with Acronis Cyber Protect Home Office. More than just a backup, more than just an antivirus. Peace of mind knowing your devices and backups are protected. Your data is safe, accessible, private, authentic, and secure. It's yours, man. Keep your digital world safe from all threats with the only cyber protection solution that delivers a unique integration of data protection and cybersecurity in one Acronis Cyber Protect Home Office, formerly Acronis True Image. Visit go.acronis.com/techguy. That's go.acronis.com/techguy. Thank you, Acronis, for supporting the Tech Guy Show. And by the way, you support us when you use that address, so they know you saw it here. Acronis.com/techguy. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy, 8888 Ask Leo. Photo guy Chris Marquardt's ready. We'll be talking to him in just a few minutes. Let's take some more calls, though, before then. Paul on the line from Columbus, Ohio. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Leo. Good to talk to you again. It's been a while.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you. I've got a pretty high-speed internet that's fairly consistent. It used to be from WOW, way out west, and they've sold the company, and now it's Breeze Line or something like that.
But it's wireless.
Based in Massachusetts. No.
Okay.
It's cable.
Okay.
Anyway, so we've had pretty good service with them before they changed ownership and since, except that on some couple apps like Sling and Hulu. During the evening, middle to late evening, we started having problems where it's buffering more and actually loses connection with the app. And we didn't have it to that degree at all before. And I'm just wondering, and I'm checking my speed. I'm using Eros, and it shows that it's up at least like in the 600 range down.
So that you have gigabit connection with BreezeLine?
Yeah, it's what they call gigabit, right?
Okay, so that's a good speed. But I'll tell you, the symptom is not unusual because that's when everybody in your neighborhood is also streaming.
Right.
And it really comes down to BreezeLine putting in enough infrastructure into your neighborhood. The way cable systems work, everybody in a certain area is sharing a pipe back to BreezeLine. There's a head end somewhere in the neighborhood, and then all of you are coming off of that head end. And so the total amount of internet to that whole area is determined by that head end. And really, the quality of your internet is going to depend very much on how much the company is putting down into that head end. And if they don't do enough, it works fine as long as there are only a few of you online. But the minute everybody's watching Netflix at the same time, it says, I can't keep up.
Yeah. Well, I would understand that and accept it, and I know what you're saying. I totally agree. It's just frustrating that in the last couple of weeks or few weeks since they bought it, it changed dramatically.
So that's almost certainly what happened, which is that WOW knew that head end, because you've got 32 neighbors or whatever, needed, a total of 5 gigabits in. They probably had a fiber connection to it. And then BreezeLine said, well, that's so expensive. Let's not do it. Now, sometimes you can even do a test and it looks like the speed is still good. That's another trick ISPs play. Sometimes they call it burst mode, where the first some packets, the first 100 megabytes come in very quickly, but the sustained throughput is considerably lower, and speed tests will often miss that. So it may, and sustained is what you care about. You're continually downloading, if you're watching a streaming TV, 25 to 50 megabits. Now, a gigabit connection, you should not be buffering.
Yeah, I know. Well, if it doesn't get better, I'll complain to the company. A lot of other people are having the same complaint in the area.
It will be all of your neighbors will have the same problem, exactly.
We'll just go back to Spectrum for a year and a half until they raise the price again.
Yeah. The other thing is, it would be worth a call to BreezeLine, because it may well be that in the transition something's going on that they plan to. They know certainly that that's happening because they can see it. So they may if you call them, they say, yeah, we know, I'm so sorry, but we're arranging additional fiber connection from another company. We had it from WOW, but now we're going to somebody else, and in the interim it's going to be a little slow, but I promise you it'll get better in a week or whatever. They may have something to say about that.
Yeah. We'll keep our fingers crossed on that.
But now you know what's going on. And this is, all internet is shared. For a while, the telephone company was using this in their ads against the cable company. They were talking about bandwidth hogs, because they said, look, it's shared internet. And that's true, but the phone company is shared. It's just shared farther upstream at the phone company itself. And everybody, I think, now realizes that the phone company's technologies over copper are going to always be slower than fiber and cable. Fiber would be the best. If somebody offers fiber in your neighborhood, then that's the way to go. But you're getting gigabit. Either BreezeLine can't support gigabit and should stop selling it, or they should fix it.
Yep. Righto.
Yep. So now at least and now you're armed with that knowledge. I'm sorry it's happened. It's a pain. It's terrible. It's annoying. Randy, Huntington Beach, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey there.
Hey, Randy.
I'm wondering if search is broken.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, it seems like search is no longer designed to provide results, but to provide ads that are marginally related.
You're talking about Google search particularly?
Yes. Yeah. Well, Google, I use DuckDuckGo, I use Firefox. And I'll put in, minus Amazon, comma, black plus men's plus 100% cotton socks. The first 4 results, 5 results are Amazon.
Are they ads particularly? I mean, can you tell that they're ads?
No, they're not ads.
They're not labeled ads. They're just, that's what comes in.
Right.
Yeah.
I do it on a different computer. The first 2 are ads. The third one is Amazon. 4th one is Amazon. The 5th one finally gives me what I was looking for. So my conclusion is that search is intentionally broken, not to provide results for search anymore, but to, try to foist off products you may be marginally interested in.
Well, welcome to America, my friend. What do you have against capitalism?
Honesty.
I'm with you. I think Google went astray long ago when they started featuring YouTube videos, their own stuff ahead of other people, and their excuse was, well, that's what people want. By the way, if you went to them today and said what you just said, they said, but that's what people want. They want Amazon. We're just giving you the search results you want. So really, the problem isn't Google, Randy, it's you. Because you are not, part of the, you're not playing the game right. You go to Amazon. That's kind of their rationale. Is we're giving you, their goal is to give you the search results that will make most people happy. That keeps them in business. That and the fact that they're an advertising business. Google has tried so many things, most of which have failed, except they don't have to succeed because they make so much money in ads. So they are an advertising company posing as a search company. Not much of a surprise, to be honest. It's Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, you've tried DuckDuckGo. The problem is DuckDuckGo, and they're working on this, but they don't have a very good database of links. So they use a lot of Google links. They use Bing links. And if you're using Google and Bing, you're going to get all that, ad stuff.
To ban Google and Bing and as much Microsoft as I can, and I'm trying to get away from the big 5 evil corporations.
Good for you. World. Good for you. You're a smart user. You're using the plus and the minus and all of that.
It doesn't work.
Yeah. You'd think minus Amazon.com would work. It may be, the other thing Google has done is they've greatly simplified all those, we call those Boolean search terms. They've eliminated a lot, saying, well, people don't use them. But again, I always suspect Google when they say, we're just giving people what they want, because it coincides amazingly well with their business model.
It sure does.
Yeah.
I have another question. I have been unable to download Windows 10 version 21H1 for a Lenovo laptop. And it's my computer tells me your device is missing important security and quality fixes.
Well, listen to them, because what you don't want is to install it and then it doesn't work. We were talking about this on Windows Weekly on Wednesday. Microsoft said 21H1 is designated for broad deployment, which means, in other words, it is now the widely deployed version of 10. The standard version of 10, because most incompatibility issues have been solved, but not all. Yeah. And you may have a driver or a piece of hardware that's just not compatible.
That could be for 21. It works great except for this update. I don't understand it.
Well, are you getting the critical security updates? Because that's really the most important thing. Yeah. I think
everything else downloaded and functioned except for this one, and I've tried going direct for it, and it says it downloads, it says it installs, and then it doesn't. Then it says, "Hey, you're missing important security and quality fixes."
And it doesn't, and it's not specific as to what you're missing.
It gives me, where is it? It gives me there's an error as well. Let me see if I can find the error. There's a little hex error, which I'm not sure anybody can ever translate. I mean, is there a rationale behind the hex error?
No, those are useless to anybody but the developer. I'm going to put in the show notes, I just pasted it into chat, a link to a Computer World article by a woman who styles herself the Microsoft Patch Lady, who talks about issues with 21H1. This is a year old, but there are some specific things you may want to that you may find that you can fix The other thing to do is, I think, wait, and it will eventually clear itself up, usually.
Man, that's what I thought I was doing.
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah, 21H1 is last year's, yeah.
Yeah.
You might, short of, you could do a Windows reset, and that might fix it. Sometimes the updates get blocked by a failed update that's getting in the way, things like that. And that's why, if we could figure out what's blocking, you might be able to fix it. The other way to do that is do a reset, which is now available to you, and see if that fixes it.
I just bought I bought a laptop finally, and with Windows 11, and it appears from my reading is that with Windows 11 you can install Android apps.
Yes.
Is that real?
Very limited subset of Android apps, but yes.
And
they come from the Amazon store, which you're going to love.
Yeah.
Hey, I got to run. Isn't that ironic? It all comes back to Amazon. It's time for our photo guy, my personal photo sensei, Chris Marquardt at sensei.photo. He joins us every week, a great photo coach, a great photographer in his own right, and an inspiration to all of us to get out there and take some pictures. Hello, Chris.
Hey, how's it going today?
It's going very well. How are things in your neck of the woods?
It is beautiful. We had such a sunny day after a couple of days of
spring.
I think Germany did have a tornado of all things, which is very unusual for Germany. Yeah, someplace. So
spring is nice.
It was wild, but
in areas where it gets icy and cold, you really appreciate the change in the seasons. Yeah.
And it drives me and others out to take photos.
Yay.
And of course, that brings me to one of the basics of photography that we want to talk about today, and that is focus and bokeh, because that is kind of important. I mean, but the simple thing about focusing, and your camera will do that for you. Most cameras just do that, but if you're a bit more photography inclined, you might want to control that, because sometimes the camera gets it wrong. And we've all seen these photos here. Let me put one on the screen of something in focus and something out of focus. Right? The focus is it's very helpful to separate the important from the less important in the picture. And usually the out of focus stuff is the stuff that is not as important. In this case, someone's holding a flower and that one is in focus, and everything behind that is out of focus. The further away it is, the more out of focus it is. So
I always think of that as a key attribute of professional photography. You know, if it's a portrait and your face is in focus and the background's all blurry, I go, oh, that's a pro.
That's what used to be the prerogative of professional cameras. They have bigger sensors, they have bigger lenses, they can do this easily, and the smaller cameras with the smaller sensors had a bit of a hard time. Now, today, smartphones are simulating this with what's called the portrait mode. So you have that now in different kind of phones that didn't really used to have that. So that focal plane, this is like a plane in space parallel to the camera, and then the further away you go from that, the more out of focus it goes. And that has to do with aperture, like how big is that aperture? The bigger that hole in the lens is, the aperture, the more out of focus the background goes. Also has to do with the focal length. If you have a telephoto lens, that's easier to throw the background out of focus as opposed to a wide-angle lens. And then the distance, the closer you are at something, think macro, right? You're really up close to something. The closer you are, the more the background goes out of focus. Now, there's different interesting things about focus, or about the bokeh, the stuff that's out of focus. And that is the shape of the bokeh. And that is determined by several things. One is where in the frame it is. You can see this here on the shot. There's like little bokeh discs in the background, and the ones towards the edge of the frame, they look like squashed circles, right? So you
see, you're in German, so you don't know. Those look like footballs. Okay, footballs.
you know what they look like? They look like lentils, and that in Germany. And the reason I'm saying this because in German, lens and lentil is the same word.
Lenticular.
So lenticular, exactly.
Oh,
so
that's interesting. It's a lens shaped. Yeah.
There's weird lenses that make really crazy bokeh. This one is called a swirly bokeh. Some people modify lenses to exaggerate that.
See, that looks that's trippy looking. And of course, you got a mushroom in the foreground, so it's perfect. But it isn't. I like the little dots better than the swirls to me, just aesthetically.
Yeah, the swirls and then some of that bokeh.
Yeah.
Well, there's discussions about aesthetics of
it's too
bokeh.
dotty.
This one, it has sharp edges. Even the edges are kind of brighter than the center of those discs, the autofocus discs. And some people don't like that because it makes the background more busy looking.
This is caused by the structure of the lens, right?
Exactly. The design of the lens, how that is put together, how many elements are in there, what the aperture looks like, and so on. Here's an example of Leica bokeh. Leica lenses are known to make very soft and creamy, silky, smooth bokeh.
Love my Leicas. Yes, that's why. Yeah. Perfect bokeh.
It's generally perceived as nice bokeh, but it is expensive bokeh as well.
Yes, you pay for it. Why is it? Because they have more leaves in the shutter? Is that why it's so smooth?
No, it comes down to the lens design and to the precision of the lens. There are other, by the way, there are non-Leica lenses that are as good, but they are harder to find.
Yeah.
There's a donut-shaped bokeh in this picture. You can see the background being little rings.
The problem with this is it's distracting, right?
It's very distracting, and that comes from mirror optics. There are certain lenses that work like telescopes, so mirror optics will create donut-shaped bokeh. There's nothing you can do about it. So those are usually used like as a telescope to shoot stars, but that person tried to shoot a bird with it, and the bokeh is, I would say quite distracting, to be honest. And then, of course, the bokeh typically is the area behind the subject that's in focus, but there's also a front bokeh, like stuff that's in front of the subject. Usually it looks nicer when the foreground is not that visible, but now there's a trend where people put more and more things in the foreground, and to be honest, I kind of like it, so nothing wrong with that. And then bokeh and focus, they have, of course, a function as well, and that's to make it clear what the subject is in the photo. The thing that's in focus is typically the thing that people are going to give attention to, so it's an attention management device. Bokeh autofocus backgrounds can be used to declutter the background. Like if it's very busy and distracts from your subject, then throwing it out of focus is a good idea. And then the shape of the aperture in your lens will also reflect in the bokeh. Here's what is that? Hexagonal? I don't know.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Septagonal. I don't know.
And if you put a little piece of cardboard in front of your lens with a little heart cut out, you can make heart-shaped bokeh. So there it is. Bokeh is it's something to learn about and to play with. If you have a bigger camera with a bigger sensor and a lens that can have a bigger aperture, like a 1.8, 2.0, 2.8, then that's a playing field. That's a nice area for experimentation.
Nowadays, cameras with lots of computational capability, like your smartphone, will fake bokeh. They'll figure out what's in the foreground, and then they'll blur in software. They'll blur the background. Imperfect because it's not perfect at figuring out what's the foreground. So sometimes, your ear will be in blurred out while the rest of you is clear. But you see that now. You see in a conference call software like Zoom, you can see a blurred background, and I hate it because I can tell immediately it's synthetic, and I don't like it. Real bokeh is amazing, but synthetic bokeh. What is our assignment for the month? The pictures we're supposed to be all out taking?
It is colorful.
Colorful. So what does that mean? It means go out and take a picture that means colorful to you. We're not going to tell you what that means. In fact, there is some supposition a black and white photo might even fit, but you can figure that out on your own. If you find something you like.
Bonus points for black and white photos that work for that assignment. Bonus points for those.
Upload it to Flickr, tag it TG Colorful with an O or an OU. We'll accept both spellings. Renee Silverman, our moderator, will thank you for your submission to the Tech Guy group, and we'll review them in a couple of weeks. Thank you, Chris Marquardt. Sensei.photo if you want some help. He's the greatest. How could you illustrate colorful with a black and white photo?
I know a couple of colorful characters.
That's
so,
interesting.
Leo.
Uh-oh. You're not going to be here, are you? I can tell already. Yes.
I'm next week. I'm actually earning money. I'm off to my annual Abbey workshop in southern Germany, and that's over a 1 week deal. So I will be gone for 2 weeks in a row, unfortunately.
Make a note of that, John. So because I'll forget, but no Chris for the next 2 weeks. Tell Kim.
I'll shoot a quick
write it down,
mail to make sure.
Yeah, that's fine. We got it. Have a great time. What abbey do you go to?
It's the Inzigkofen, which is pretty much in the Danube Valley. The Danube is very shallow there, and it's a nature preserve, and it's an old abbey. Nice. It's now kind of an educational thing.
Kim's writing it down right now. Sounds wonderful. I'm jealous.
I'll be back on the 12th.
Nice. We will see you then.
Tech Guy, do you have a question for Leo?
Have a good time. And
thank you so much.
Yeah. I'll see you next time.
I'll miss you. I'll miss everyone.
You're going to have a great time.
Yes, I will. Okay. All right.
Thanks, Chris. See you. Bye-bye.
See you then. Take care.
Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Actually, that was the last good picture I took. It was of Billy Idol. Come to think of it. 8888 Ask Leo. And I did it with my smartphone. So there. Yeah, you don't need to have a fancy camera to take great pictures. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number if you want to talk high tech with me. Website, that's where I put, sometimes I'll say, oh, I found a good link. I'll put it on the website. That's techguylabs.com. Techguylabs.com. And that's the place to go. If you hear something on the show and you just want to, what was that link? We put them all up there. Thanks to our team that's doing that, Micah Sargent and John Ashley and all of the folks. If you go to episode 1896, you'll get all the links. On Sundays, we put the links up to the songs that Professor Laura has played through the weekend. So all those links will be there. A transcript of the show, so you can find something. Search through the text transcript, jump to that part of the audio and video. That's also there. It'll all be up there. It takes a couple of days to get everything, but it'll all be up there in the next couple of days. TechGuyLabs.com, episode 1896. What are we going to do when we get to episode 2022, 2023? Then it will be. Then I don't know what. I don't know. We'll have to pause. We'll have to start over. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. And on the line next, Bruce from Oceanside, California. Hello, Bruce.
Hello. I've called up before, Leo. I'm known as the Oceanside Trenchcoat Guy.
The ocean. Oh, you're the guy. Okay. For anybody who doesn't remember, you got the camera, and you wear a trench coat. And you go into the ocean. And that's pretty much the whole thing. It's a YouTube video, and it's remarkable. And you've got fans all over the place. When they see you in the beach, they go, it's the trench coat guy.
Pretty much.
It's awesome.
But, I want you to know that I couldn't solve the sound thing except Hero 10 came out, and that solved the sound.
Yes, I love these heroes. And did you get a enclosure for it, so if it gets wet, it's okay?
Actually, I don't go to that depth because I only go waist deep. So
So it doesn't get wet. Yeah.
Well, it does, but it doesn't go below the depth limit.
Got it. And it's designed. I mean, these are what they call action cameras. The Heroes are really good, and you got the new one. That's really cool.
Yeah, the can.
Yeah.
And
well, now wait a minute. Now there you are lying in the surf. It looks like it's going to get pretty wet. Looks like it's going to get pretty wet. But you say it's okay, huh?
It is okay.
You are so great. So I don't remember what I recommended, but I think I probably did mention that the Heroes are good for this kind of. The GoPros are kind of good for this stuff.
Yeah. Well, at the time I had the 8 and the 9.
Yeah.
And the difference between the 9 and the 10, it's a big difference. It's much clearer, and you don't get the fuzziness in the 10.
So, and you want that nice crash of the ocean waves, and the sounds of the surfers going, "What the heck?" and all of that. So I think, yeah, you need good sound. You also put it on a selfie stick, right? So you don't have to have a camera person. You can just hold the camera yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
I use the Grande, the cat from GoPro.
Oh, so they make their own. Okay, cool. And do you record everything? Do you record something every day? Do you go out there?
I try to. I don't succeed every day, but I try to.
That's awesome. 80 years ago, you're not. How old are you?
75.
75. 60 years ago, you wouldn't have thought yourself to be the Oceanside trench coat guy, would you? I mean, who would have thought this would be in retirement your great passion? Thank goodness YouTube exists, right?
There you go. But I was going to ask. I switched. I have a Canon 5D Mark IV.
Very nice camera, fancy camera, nice, yeah.
And
don't take that in the ocean. You'll regret that. Oof.
I don't do that. I do everything in RAW. Of course, I can't be holding it. My friend holds it for me and takes the pictures.
Okay.
But for some reason or other, when you take it and download it to my Mac, Facebook does not like RAW.
No. No one likes RAW. Let me explain what RAW is. RAW is a data file that contains every bit of the information that came off the sensor. And by itself, RAW does not look like a picture. It's black and white, it's weird, but you need to process it to turn it into something that looks like you saw. So when you import it into a Macintosh, you'll be using, depending on which program you're using. If you use Apple's Photos, you'll use Apple Camera Raw. If you use Adobe Lightroom or Photoshop, you'll use Adobe Camera Raw. If you use Capture One, but you'll be using their interpreter. Each of these programs has a program built in that when you import it, interprets it. And so what you're seeing on the screen is actually not the raw data, but something much more akin to the JPEG. Your camera takes JPEGs and RAWs. In fact, you can, and I usually do when I'm shooting with a camera like that, turn on JPEG plus RAW. So it'll take two images. It'll take the camera's interpretation of the RAW, plus you can download the RAW. RAW is intended for you to process. So you need to open it in Photos or Lightroom or Camera One or some other program and process it so that it looks like an image. Then you'll save it out as a PNG or a JPEG or a TIFF or the variety of formats. Most of those formats Facebook will take. It's not going to take RAW because it's unprocessed. It doesn't know what to do with it. Plus, they're very big, and every camera's RAW is different. In fact, even within manufacturers, the RAW file formats change. So, Facebook's never going to do it.
Yeah. Well, my only solution was to drop it over to my iPad and then publishing on.
That's exactly. You know what's happening? The iPad is processing the RAW, turning it into a JPEG, and then you can upload it. Yeah. But the reason people shoot in RAW, it's big. I mean, it's as big as your sensor. If you on that camera you have a 41 megapixel sensor, it's a 41 megabyte file. It's huge file because it's every bit of the data from that sensor. That's why I say shoot JPEG plus RAW. The camera itself does a very nice JPEG of the RAW. If you don't want to do any processing, you can upload that JPEG. If you want to do processing, open it in Lightroom or Capture One or Apple's Photos. The whole point of that is so that you can then have the maximum flexibility in processing it. You can make, you can change the what they call a color temperature from a very warm tone to a very blue tone. You might want to do that to make the ocean look colder, for instance. You could process little bits of it. And because you have everything the camera knew about it, you can do much more. When you turn it into a JPEG, you're stripping out data. And so the changes you can make are more limited.
Yeah, I mostly use it when I'm doing sunsets so that I can, sometimes when you look at the picture that you took, it's not what you actually saw.
Right.
So when you go in and edit it, you can
make it look like what you saw. Rachel Chun in our chat room has a great analogy. She says raw is like getting all the ingredients for a cake, not the cake. You can't just eat it and expect it'll taste like cake. You have to cook it.
There you go.
That's Rachel, thank you. Perfect analogy. So, but a lot of people want the ingredients because they want to make a home-cooked cake. Some people say, no, just give me the cake.
So I guess I'm going to have to stick with the solution I already found of just transferring those that I want to the iPad and then flipping them up.
Well, the reason you can, there's a number of things you can do. I would suggest taking RAW plus JPEG. That way you'll have a JPEG when you download it that you can upload to Facebook. And you'll have the RAW photo if you decide you want to mess with it. That's kind of the best of both worlds. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, you can still reach us, but you'll have to do it with Skype out or something like that. 8888 Ask Leo. Let's say hi to Ray in Menifee, California. Hi, Ray.
Hello, Leo.
Hello. Okay, let me help you.
Okay. When I go to my bank, it doesn't recognize my computer.
Ah, man. What does that mean? What does it say?
It says we do not recognize your voice, and it wants me to go through their
system, the two-factor
completely and put in a new password.
Right.
And when I do it, it works that time. When I get it logged in, but when I go to do it again, it doesn't recognize my computer. So I believe the computer is not doing something it's supposed to do.
I'll tell you what it is, and you can see if it's something you turned on. It's not saving the cookie.
Oh, so that's what, it's not saving cookies.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people turn off cookies for a variety of reasons. Sometimes you go to the website, it'll say, hey, we store cookies. Is that okay? And you say yes or no. That, by the way, was the most misguided regulation out of the EU that is now kind of spread like a plague throughout the world. And it does nothing. Because you need cookies. Cookies aren't a bad thing. Cookies are how the bank knows you've been there before on that browser. So if you ever clear cookies, or if you have your browser set to not accept cookies, maybe you have some security software on there blocking cookies, all of that will require you to do that whole process every time. And that's the whole point of a cookie is to it's like a little, when you save settings, there's a little save settings thing that says, this is Ray. You know Ray. Let him in.
Yeah.
You still have to enter your password, but you don't have to do the two-factor stuff. Every bank would at least always require a password. Facebook, you wouldn't have to re-log in again. If you go to Facebook and every time it says it's you, that's because Facebook saved what they call, it's a cookie they call the token that represents you and you alone. And that's how it knows, oh, he's back. And every 30 days or 60 days or some time period, it'll say, hey, let's re-authenticate, make sure it's still you. A bank, though, has to have higher security because, hey, your money's there. Mm-hmm. So they should what they're doing, I would think, is they're always asking you to log in, but it's that two-factor, that second factor where they give you a text message or something like that to enter. That's the thing that's not remembering. Yeah.
Now, how do I turn on my cookies?
Well, it's normally they're on. So what browser are you using?
I'm Right now, I'm using the Microsoft.
You're using Edge. So I would look in the settings to see if you have turned on high security settings or turned on cookie blocking. Do you run any security software or on the browser or on the system as a whole?
No, I mean, I used to use WebRoot.
Okay. If you've taken it off, if you took it off thoroughly, it would no longer do anything. But sometimes antivirus programs don't like to be removed because then a bad guy could do it. So they make it a little trickier, and it might have left some stuff around. It may also be nothing that you did. In order to save cookies, it needs to have access to the hard drive to save them. Sometimes that area gets damaged or corrupted. So if you didn't turn on any kind of security to block cookies, and again, I'd look in your browser settings to make sure, then what you will do is you'll want to go into your browser and refresh it, clear the cookies, clear the data, clear the cache, because sometimes it gets corrupted. It's just a damaged cache, and I think that could be the other problem.
Okay.
If you want, you could reset Microsoft Edge. The only problem with doing that is all the cookies from all the sites will be gone. You'll have to do that again everywhere. But in Edge, there's a setting under the 3 dots up there on the right called Reset Settings to their default values. If you can't figure out any other way to get rid of this, you could do that. You will, the next time you go to the bank, one last time have to enter in that 6-digit code, but it shouldn't ask you again for a while. Usually it asks you every 30 days.
Okay. I'm still trying to look. Okay, browser settings, is that where I look?
Yeah. There's the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner. Just, look at your security settings in particular.
Windows security, open Windows security.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, let's first go right to advanced settings. So settings, view advanced settings. There is a cookie settings there, and you can just make sure that you haven't turned on cookie blocking.
Okay.
So that is something you can do in browsers. People who are very paranoid, very privacy focused, might do that, but that adds a lot of extra work on your part because it's not remembering you from time to time. That's how a browser remembers you, is with cookies. Cookies.
Okay. I got advanced settings, and this is delivery optimization.
No. Look for cookies.
Nope. Okay, let's look for cookies.
There are also extensions you can install, and so forth. I don't want to use up the whole call just walking you through this, but you'll find it. That's what you need to find. And if that doesn't work, there is also in that settings menu, reset browser. Cookies were invented way back in the early days of the World Wide Web by the folks at Mosaic, which was, you might remember, one of the very first browsers. And it makes sense. They had to solve this problem. You visited the site once before, or many times before. How can the site remember your previous visit, perhaps save the last page you visited, or your shoe size if you buy shoes there, that kind of thing? And, of course, one way to do that was for the site to keep track of it. But sites have tens of millions of users, many more in some cases. They don't want to keep all that information. Plus, there's a security concern with them keeping the information. So instead, they let you save it. It's your computer. It's your browser. And it's just like when you save settings. You change your settings in Microsoft Office, and you save them. It saves it on the hard drive. Mosaic called them persistent client-side state information, PCSSI. And if you break it down and you think about it, that's what it is. Persistent, doesn't go away. Client side, you're the client. That's you. Instead of server side, that's the site. So client side. State is what we're saving. You're the state of the world, the state of play, the state of what's going on, who you are, what shoe size you are. That's all the state information, obviously. So PCSSI, I think they should have called them Pixies. I think they missed a bet. But they didn't want to call it PCSSI. They thought, well, we need a catchy, cute name. They call them cookies. And I think it comes from, the probably Hansel and Gretel. Remember, they left breadcrumbs as they went to the witch's house so they could find their way home. It's kind of like that. It's crumbs from your visit that are left behind. The name took. And unfortunately, there is one potential security risk with cookies. It's not really the biggest privacy issue out there by far, but it's the one everybody's aware of. And it comes from something called third-party cookies. When Mosaic created the description of cookies and what cookies are for, they said something really important. They were kind of aware of the privacy thing. Only the site you're visiting can read its cookies. They didn't want you to go to the Starbucks site. Starbucks saves your favorite drink. And then when you go to Pete's Coffee, have Pete know what your favorite Starbucks drink is. So they said in the specification, and it's still the case, only the site you're visiting can read that cookie. So only Starbucks knows what your favorite drink is. Pete's can't tell. Pete's can't even tell you've been to Starbucks. So that they don't want you to go to Pete's and Pete says, "Hey, well, I see you're a Starbucks customer. Let me offer you a certificate, a coupon." No. So they had very good rules. Unfortunately, companies like Facebook figured out a way around the rule. You ever see the Facebook like button? Well, that little like button is coming from Facebook. That like button is Facebook. It can set a cookie, and it knows where it is. So when you go to Starbucks, even if you don't click the like button, that's a little spy hole for Facebook. And they say, I see you're in Starbucks. And they save a cookie. Now Facebook knows you've been to Starbucks. Facebook can share that with anybody else if they have a like button, so on and so on and so on. There was a little leak that, of course, Facebook figured out. They call those third-party cookies. So the cookies Starbucks sent when you visited Starbucks, those are first-party cookies. Those are okay. The problem is third-party cookies. And I do recommend you disable third-party cookies in every browser because that's all that is. It's just a little bug on there, and you notice there are lots of them now, a little bit of image or whatever on there that comes from another server. That's the loophole that lets that server keep track of what you're visiting. You don't want them to follow you around on the web. You want to disable third-party cookies. Unfortunately, when the EU made a law against cookies, they didn't understand that, and they required in the e-privacy directory, the EU cookie law, they required that every site notify you it was saving cookies. Yes, it is. Every site uses cookies. If anything is going to persist from visit to visit on a site, it's going to have to do it in cookies. So it's a complete waste of your time, your cognitive energies to put those cookie banners up. It's solving the wrong problem. Incredibly annoying. If you go to my personal blog, I have a kind of snarky cookie thing. I used to say, yeah, like a lot of other sites, I use cookies. Get over it. I have finally got rid of that. Because you have to, by the way, you got to put up this announcement if you want visitors from the EU. So now I say, hey, I use a cookie. I use one, on my personal blog, there's only one cookie. That's so you can say whether you want it in light mode or dark mode. The only way I can do that is by saving a cookie. That's how I remember what mode you like when you visit my site. So now I say, hey, I do use cookies for your light and dark mode setting. And then I follow the law. I have a button that says learn more. It takes you a page that learns all about cookies. And then a button that says, okay, hide this banner so I don't see it again. By the way, you know how it knows that you say okay or not okay? It sets a cookie. Of course it does. 8888. That drives me nuts. 8888. Ask Leo. Cookies are not bad. They're not. They're a necessary part of the internet. More of your calls still to come. Well, that's a good question, Out of Sync. And rather than find out, I just put the banner up there. It's annoying. I mean, we have to do we get email from, if you're a company, you get email from all sorts of scammers, basically, who say, look, we're going to, you got to do this, or you're going to be in trouble, man. On Twit, I think it's a total scam, but we got somebody saying, you'll see at the very bottom ad choices on the Twit page, and you'll see somebody see this whole big thing that we have to do with ad choices, and that's because some attorney somewhere emailed us, saying, well, you got to do this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. If you want to talk high tech with me, website techguylabs.com. George is next from Santa Monica. Hi, George.
Good afternoon, Leo.
Hello. Welcome.
I have a problem with my PC downstairs, the computer. Somehow I went to a website. I was looking for a streaming service, and I wanted to look at the information about this. A guy told me about the streaming service that has great movies and stuff on it. So I went to the site and started looking, and then my computer crashed or whatever.
Oh, no.
But I have a Windows 10 USB rescue.
Good.
Did you plug in? But I can't even boot my computer anymore. It won't go to the boot setup to even turn on.
Right.
So I can't download anything off that USB thing.
I think it's not the site that did it. It's just using your computer. Your computer died. And, it had to die sometime. It was probably going to die when you used it. And so it's easy to...
died, but...
Yeah, I think it's pretty dead.
I keep pushing F9 to change the boot up.
Well, let me ask you a couple of questions here. So the machine right now, it's quiet. It's like a piece of rock, right? Cold, quiet, and silent. When you push the on button...
Bottom of the sea.
Yeah. When you push the on button, does a light come on?
Yeah, everything turns on.
Okay, hold on, slow down. Do you hear fans come on?
Yes.
Okay. But the screen doesn't do anything?
I see stuff on the screen.
You see stuff on the screen?
Yeah.
And then what happens?
Well, I go to F9.
Well, wait a minute. Before you go to F9, tell me what happens. Does it beep?
I think so, yes.
Beeps, okay. And what do you see on the screen?
Let's see. What do I see?
Let me explain what I'm doing here, George, so you understand.
Yes.
It's dying. Something's wrong, obviously.
Oh.
So we're trying to figure out where it's failing. What's going wrong?
Oh.
So the first question I asked is to kind of check to see if the power to the computer is gone or the power supply is dead. If that were the case, you wouldn't hear fans, you wouldn't get beeping, you wouldn't get any lights.
Right.
Sometimes a computer, if, for instance, a RAM, is it a laptop or a desktop?
It's a laptop.
Laptop.
No, it's a desktop.
It's a desktop. Sometimes on a computer, if for instance, a RAM comes in little daughter boards, little small sticks, and if it works its way loose and there's no memory, the computer can't go on, but it can turn on. You can see stuff on the screen, and normally what you'll get is some beeping from the computer that if you decode it says, I don't have any RAM, man, and it can't go past that. So we're trying to figure out how far it can get, because that's going to tell us a little bit more about what's going on. So something comes up on the screen. Does it, for instance, show your hard drives? If it does and it can see them, it sounds like, though, because you can't get into the BIOS setup,
right.
It sounds like maybe that has failed. You're sure that F9 is the right key?
Well, that's the one I went on my iPad and did a tutorial about how to start your desktop.
It's different for every computer. Who makes your computer?
It's HP.
Okay, so it's different for every computer.
Okay.
So let me just see what the setup key. What HP model is it?
Oh, I don't remember.
Okay. So on some computers, it's the escape key. On some computers, it's on HP, for instance, it's usually F10, not F9. Sometimes it's the delete key. So and even within HP, different models have different keys. So the keys you almost always are, it's going to be one of these: escape, delete, F10, 11, 9, 12.
Okay.
Those are 5. Just hit all of one after the other. Boom, 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 and hope that it works. Now,
well, when something comes on the screen, it says it's looking. There's a diagnostic test. It says
good,
and then it comes back and says this problem will be. It might take an hour to correct itself.
Oh, it's a hard drive error. Okay, yeah. So, how old is this HP?
That's probably 7 years old.
Are all your pictures on this HP?
No.
Oh, good.
I got them on my
Oh, good. That's a relief.
Smart, yeah.
Yeah. So I think the hard drive. That's, by the way, the first thing to go on computers. I think the hard drive's probably failed. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. So all of this information is kind of a diagnostic to figure out what's broken. When you say it's going to take an hour to fix, that means the operating system wants to scan the drive and fix any errors. I presume you've let it sit and do that, right?
Yeah, but it
never
goes
fixes
beyond an hour's time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do anything.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to try to fix it, but sometimes things can't be fixed.
Right. Okay.
Pretty certain bet.
A new hard drive?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's talk about that. So, have you ever opened this thing?
Yes.
Okay. So,
I know how to change those.
Oh, nice.
Put a new hard
Yay. And is it a spinning drive? Probably is, huh? Or is it solid state?
I think it's a solid state one.
Okay. Those rarely fail. But and so if there's two kinds of solid state, there's some that are like the memory cards that you little daughter boards that go on the motherboard, and some are actually look like hard drives. So you want to get one that's compatible. Replace it properly. And I wouldn't throw out the old drive. I would mount it on another machine via USB and see if there's anything on there. And probably a lot of data's on there. Is there anything on there you don't want to lose?
No, there's nothing that's really important at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to be sure, but based on that, we're going to fix this, it's going to take an hour, that's a message that comes up when the hard drive has failed. And not necessarily dead failed. It may be usable. This is one of those cases where my friend Steve Gibson's, his program SpinRite, you could run it on there, and based on what you're saying, it probably would fix it. It might not fix it that you didn't have to reinstall Windows, but it might fix it so it's usable. But the problem is his program's $90. Replacement hard drive is going to be $50.
Oh, yeah. But I can't even go to his site to download.
Right. You'd have to do it on another computer anyway. Yeah.
Right.
I don't want you to waste money, George, but I'm going to say at least 80% that's a failed hard drive.
Okay. Well, no problem with the money. I found out I had Agent Orange, so now the government's going to send me.
Is that true? Is that true?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
In the Navy, we were over off of Vietnam during that time, and our ship was in the waters when all that stuff was being sprayed on all the police.
My God.
Everybody on our ship is exposed to Agent Orange.
Sorry. Have you had health problems ever since?
The one thing it caused my diabetes.
Ugh.
And that's one of the requisites of getting benefits. So,
well, for a long time they were refusing to acknowledge it. I'm glad to hear that they're acknowledging it now.
I know. It was President Trump that got us benefits for that. It's called the Blue Water area.
Thank goodness.
So we're in the Blue Water area.
Good. Well, don't spend all your Agent Orange money on a hard drive, but it shouldn't cost you more than $100 to get a new hard drive.
No, I can afford the hard drive.
Yeah, get a hard drive. And I'm sorry, but otherwise you're okay because we love you. We don't want to lose you.
No, I'm 79, so I'm going to be gone soon anyway.
I know. I'd say that.
But I feel fine.
You're good.
You're
good. Good, George.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate everything you do, and
well, thanks for helping me with this problem. I'll get another hard drive. That's no problem.
Okay, and call me if there's any issues, and we'll get it working. And I'm glad that they finally are playing the benefits. That's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
Thank you.
All right, take care, George.
Thank you very much, Leo.
Sure, and always a pleasure. Bye. Okay, I'm going to make this my new theme song. I love it. It's so jazzy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo, the phone number. Yeah, it's hard, I'm sitting at some distance from you, and so it's hard for me to reach out through the radio, put my hands on your computer and diagnose it. But sometimes, there's just signals, clues. The computer's trying to tell you what's wrong, and sometimes I think we can figure it out. I can't promise, and I hate to have people go out and spend money on something and it doesn't work, but I think for George, getting a new hard drive is going to fix that. That, of course, is the first thing that fails on most computers. Power supplies often fail because they got hot and cold, they expand and contract, and hard drives. Those are the two things that go. And so usually my diagnostic questions, as they were with George, will start with the power supply and then move on to a hard drive. And I think we got that one. I hope we did. Ann in Newport Beach, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Ann.
Hi, I'm so glad you're there.
I am glad I'm here, too. It beats the alternative.
I want to share my desktop with you, but that wouldn't really make good radio or podcast, would it?
Yeah, I can imagine me going, and
I'd be,
That's why so far no one does Freudian therapy on the radio. So what?
This is going to be so easy for you, though.
Oh,
or
good.
your team or your room, and it's just been driving me nuts for a few days now.
Okay.
So someone left TV, an LG 22LN 4510.
Okay.
In my building's lobby, free to a good home.
Nice.
Perfect. There's the second monitor I need for my work laptop.
It's a small monitor, but it's good. Yeah.
Oh, it totally worked for me. So there's
Okay.
in the laptop one, right?
Yep.
So far, I've got HP ProBook. I've got the LG.
Okay.
I have an HDMI to HDMI cable.
Perfect.
I went ahead. I ordered a remote from Amazon because I was having trouble guiding through the inputs on the TV. But it's connected, but nobody wants to talk to each other.
No. So on the back of the TV, what kind of connectors? Does it have multiple HDMI ports on the back?
No, there's one HDMI.
Just one.
And then there's just one. And then next to it, I'm not sure what you call it. It has like the screws on the left and the right and the little grid with holes. Do you call that a
Yeah, so that's not a TV. It's a monitor.
Well, then why is it not talking to my HDMI?
I know. So that is an old monitor because it has a VGA connector. So or it might have a DVI connector, but it's pretty old, that connector on the back. That's old. Give me the model number again. LG 22.
LN 4510.
4510. I'm just going to look that up.
I even went on their website and pulled down the manual. It says, yes.
It does say it's a TV. 24-inch 1080p TV. It's weird, those connectors on the back. But I guess it's because it's kind of old. And do you get a picture at all? Do you get anything?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't have it connected to cable. But
you could, and you could watch TV on it, yeah.
I sure could.
So, of course, that's the first question. Is it okay? But it sounds like it is okay. It's pretty old. Let me just see the connectivity.
I'm not so young either.
It's perfect then. AV input, so it's got an antenna input. It's got USB 3 and 2. It's got AV and HDMI, HDCP, and a D-sub. So it's got what you need. It's got exactly what you need. And when you use the remote, you're setting it to that HDMI input, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So if I go to my input choices, there's HDMI, and it's selected and highlighted.
Perfect.
Now, something in the manual said if you do that, you have to go down to this little red button where it says input label. And so if I go there, then it chooses input label, AV, component, RGB, HDMI, and that's also on HDMI.
Okay.
So I should, but wait, I just did a right arrow and I get a choice. VCR, DVD, set-top box, satellite.
Yeah, that's just for the label. That's not important. That's just so when you look at it, instead of just saying HDMI, it'll say your computer or your set-top box or whatever.
It says PC. All right.
It's just a label. Yeah, it's not, but it doesn't help see what's going on.
Darn it.
And
there's my answer.
You thought, I solved it. I've solved it. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't get any credit if you solved it yourself. Then on the laptop, it has an HDMI port.
Connected.
And tell me again what laptop it is.
It's a HP ProBook.
ProBook, you said that. Okay.
But I also have a Pavilion, and I tried it with my personal
Okay, you tried it with both of them.
and
Nothing.
Yep. And I also, I took the ProBook to my Samsung TV in the living room and used the same cable. And
it worked.
No, it did not.
It did not work. Oh, good. Well, we've narrowed it down a little bit. Yeah, it could be. Could either be the cable or it could be the laptop. I don't think that laptop, but you might want to go into the settings. When you first start it up and it says press F10 to get into settings, you might want to go into the settings and make sure that HDMI port is enabled. Sometimes they don't, they don't enable the port. So just make sure that that's enabled. Good. I'm really glad you tried it with another TV. Because now we know, because the first thought is, well, of course it was in the lobby. It doesn't work. But it didn't work with a TV that works. So that's a good diagnostic. It still may not work, but at least we know that the laptop's not sending out an HDMI signal. It sounds like. So I would look.
If I'm at settings, from settings I choose output devices to check the HDMI to see if that's active.
So you're actually in the settings already? Wow, you work fast.
Always been ready for this.
You'll want to look in the. So this is not the Windows settings. This is set. Yeah. Okay. So you're actually going to shut down the computer, power it back on, and hitting. This is what the problem we were having with George. It depends. I think with HP it's usually F10. So you're going to be hitting the F10 button until it goes into what we used to call BIOS setup. Now it's just the setup for the computer, and you want to make sure that HDMI port is enabled. And you also probably want to make sure it's outputting a 1080p signal, because that monitor is a 1080p monitor. So you want to make sure it's not outputting something that the monitor can't understand.
But let me throw this in there then, because I did the same things with my personal laptop, and I know my personal laptop, I know that HDMI port works or is enabled because I've had it hooked to.
And did that work with the LG that you found in the lobby?
No, not with the LG I found in the lobby.
So it is, completely theoretically possible. Can you try that other laptop with the HP that you found in the lobby, and it didn't work?
Yep, and I have that laptop.
But it does work with the TV in the living room.
No, it did not.
But something does.
It's not.
You have some device that does work. The HDMI port does work.
Oh, yes, the HDMI port does for sure.
On that other computer.
Neither of my laptops or the television have been able to detect or connect to the LG.
Yeah. Okay. Can you connect that other computer to the LG just to see?
Yeah, I've done that, and I have that in there right now.
And the LG works?
No, LG does not. The TV's on. The LG itself is on. But right now it says check signal cable.
So I'm just trying to figure out. You could have. It's completely possible. Multiple things are wrong. Like the reason that was in the lobby is it stopped working.
Story of my life. No, she was moving.
Okay.
I figured out who the woman was.
What I'd really like to do for diagnostic purposes is somehow get that LG working. Just so we know, okay, it's working, and it's working with this cable. Then we can narrow it down. Because we really want to figure out what's failing. If it's the laptop, again, going to the setup and making sure that HDMI port is enabled will help. Normally, you don't have to. In a laptop, the HDMI should just work, but, maybe you have to on this one. But so I guess my advice would be find something that has HDMI out, a Roku, an Apple TV, something that you could put on that LG just to see if it works. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. So many places it could go wrong. You thought this was going to be an easy one, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely. And free. I didn't even want to buy a cheap monitor, and I thought this is going to.
Well, it might be fine. It might be fine. So, do you have anything that has HDMI out that you could plug into it to see?
Other than the two laptops?
Yeah, neither of them work, right?
Well, when you say work, I guess.
Have you ever seen a picture on that LG monitor?
Yeah, there's a picture on the LG monitor, absolutely, but nothing from the laptops that I connect to it.
So can you connect something to it and the LG monitor the TV works?
I know it does because, like, for example, if I change the input to...
Yeah, you'll see something on the screen, but that doesn't mean necessarily that the HDMI port on it is correct and stuff like that. So you know what I'm saying? You want to actually verify that you can plug an HDMI something into that monitor and see it. Once you've done that, then we can say, good, I know I have a working cable and I have a working monitor. So we can now focus on the laptop as the problem.
Okay. To be continued. I'll probably talk to you in a week. Then.
Okay. So you got 2 assignments. 1, find something you can plug into that monitor to make sure it's working. 2, do the BIOS setup on that HP laptop and make sure that you have enabled the HDMI port.
You got it. I appreciate your help. Have a great day.
Oh, good. Have fun. Take care. Thank you for letting me be your tech guy this week. Thanks to Micah Sargent, Tech Guy 2, who's here every Saturday. Thanks to Professor Laura, our musical director, doing such a great job putting in the bumper music, pushing the buttons, all that stuff. Our phone angel, Kim Schaffer, preparing you for your appearance on national radio. Thanks to all of you who call. Thanks most of all to all of you who listen. Because if no one listened, they would fire me tomorrow. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number during the week, 24/7. You can always go to the website, techguylabs.com. That's where you'll find the show notes, links, previous episodes, audio and video, and all of that. techguylabs.com. This is episode 1896. John Paul is on the line from Roseville, Oregon. Hello, John Paul.
Hi, Leo.
Welcome.
I have trouble with my laptop Chromebook in the browser Firefox.
You're using Firefox on a Chromebook? No, you're not.
Yeah.
How are you doing that? Are you using Linux on your Chromebook?
No, I have a browser I use. The problem I have is that
it's not Firefox, it's Chrome. The whole point of a Chromebook is that, from Google's point of view, is that you have to use Chrome. So what's the problem?
Is Chrome.
Yeah.
It's like it auto-selects the whole screen with the red background.
That's not good.
And all the images.
Text too?
Sorry?
Text too? The text everything or just the background?
Just the background, and it seems that it starts at the top, but if I move the mouse up to the top, it follows it on the way back.
Oh, yeah. So that's not right, obviously.
I'm not sure.
So I think you probably have a hardware problem, but there's a quick way to fix that. By the way, people are pointing out that you could be using Firefox if you're using the Android version of Firefox on there. But Chrome OS is designed to run on Chrome because, it's Google and they want you to use Chrome. That's why they call it Chrome OS. So it sounds like a hardware problem actually with the display, but here's a way to find out if it's hardware or software. There is a feature in your Chromebook called power washing. It's one of the reasons I recommend Chromebooks. It's in effect resetting the Chromebook to its factory state. Now, the only caution I would make if you have a Chromebook and you want to power wash is it will wipe everything off the hard drive. It is literally going to put that Chromebook back to the way you got it from the factory or from the store. So if you have been saving stuff on your Chromebook hard drive, you're not supposed to do that. It's why it's such a small hard drive. Google expects you to keep everything in Google Drive. But if for some reason you have been saving something onto the internal drive on your Chromebook, you should copy that stuff off onto an external drive, a USB key, something else. It probably isn't much if you have been. The way Chromebooks work is, everything's saved in the cloud. It's a cloud computer. And that's the beauty of Power Wash. You can power wash a Chromebook, log into your Google account, and boom, everything's back. What you just described, kind of this going red, especially as you move a mouse around, sounds more like there's a hardware error in the monitor, the connector to the monitor, and that does happen frequently with laptops. If you think about it, that laptop hinge that's bending back and forth every time you open the laptop, there's a ribbon cable in there that connects the base of the laptop, the guts of it, the memory, the processor, the drive, to the screen, the display. That cable gets bent a lot and sometimes fails, falls out, or breaks. And if one pin of the cable got broken, for instance, you'd get exactly, if the blue got turned off in the red, green, blue, you'd be getting everything red. You know, it would all look reddish because there'd be no blue. So it could easily be a hardware error. So the way to diagnose that is, first of all, let's eliminate any possibilities with software. You can find when you call tech support, they often will say, all right, well, the first thing we're going to do is reset your phone or reset your computer. That's their way of eliminating any possible software problems and focusing on the hardware. Power wash your Chromebook first. Make sure you got it all backed up. The power wash will put it back to its factory state. The way to power wash varies, so it's probably a good idea to look online at that particular Chromebook model and see how you power wash it. It's usually a setting. Once you power wash it, it'll go through the whole cycle of wiping out the hard drive, starting all over, fresh, a completely new operating system. It'll erase anything you've installed. It'll just be completely cleaned. You'll then log in with your Google login. It will download anything that you installed and saved on Google Drive. That'll all be visible. So it should be back to the state it was in. If that red has gone away, good news. It was something weird that was going on, some bug, a software flaw. If it persists, then it is that second problem. It's a connector to the monitor. And that's a hardware issue. The good news on a Chromebook is they're pretty inexpensive. But because they're inexpensive, the components aren't the highest quality. It gets thrown around a lot. People don't treat it elegantly, carefully, like the jewel it is. And so you do get failures. You might have to get a new Chromebook, I guess is what I'm saying. But try that power wash first to diagnose. Karen from Pinion Hills, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Karen.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? I'm great.
I'm great, too.
Good.
Listen, I've got Frontier Communications, and I have Dish. Do I need both of those?
Well, depends on how you're using them. Frontier is an internet service provider, but they also offer TV service. Dish is mostly a TV service. You can subscribe. Dish has a internet service from it as well. If they're overlapping, no, you don't need both of them.
Okay.
Yeah, you can have one or the other. If it were me, if you do want to use it for internet, I'd stick with Frontier because they're land-based, not satellite-based. So it's going to be a much better internet experience. TV-wise, probably be better too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So if you want to get rid of one of them, don't tell Dish I told you. But I'd probably get rid of Dish. Frontier, in some areas, actually sells Dish. And this is probably why you have both. Frontier, in areas where it doesn't offer TV service, will say, well, but get our Dish and you'll have TV service. Truthfully, your question may be the question of the year people are asking these days, which is, if I've got fast, reliable internet, why do I need a TV service provider? And that's one that you're going to have to answer for yourself. A lot of people are doing it. They call it cord cutting. And the reason is almost all television is now available over the internet, not through a dish satellite or a TV antenna or a cable provider. But it's going to come down to what you want to watch, because you're going to have to pay for all those things a la carte now. So if you're thinking about cord cutting, if you're thinking, well, I don't really need Dish because I can watch my shows over the internet on the Frontier, this is what you want to calculate. First of all, how much that internet's going to cost. Okay, that's the first part of it. And then how much is it going to cost to get the channels I want? If you want locals, for instance, you're in Pinion Hills, maybe, I'm not sure what the locals would be for you. You could subscribe to Hulu or YouTube TV. There are a variety of other services that will give you live locals, your local channels. I use, for instance, YouTube TV, and that gives me all the live locals from the nearest metro, which for me is San Francisco. So if I want to watch a live football game or something like that, I can see it on YouTube TV. But that's $65 a month. Add that to the cable for the internet. Now we're probably over $100 a month. Then do you want HBO? You're going to pay for that. Do you want NBC's Peacock? You're going to pay for that. So cord cutting is not necessarily a way to save money. You're going to have to actually figure out what you want, what it's going to cost, then compare it to what you pay for Dish. It may be cheaper to get Dish, but only you know what you want to see. Hey, that's it. I'm out of time. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too, and I hope you'll come back again. We'll do this all one more time Well, at least one more time next week. I will be here live for Memorial Day weekend. We can have a barbecue, you and I, okay? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. In the meantime, please have a safe Geek Week. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.